Because you got powerful legs. How'd you get the physique? Was it gym or how'd you get the physique?
I've always been.
She's actually not got powerful legs. Do you shower in your dressing room? Do you have a shower on the day of a fight or not? Tell us about the tattoos.
Shut the fuck up, you little prick.
But then I've got the Phoenix.
Hey, prick.
So I'll take it from Bob every day of the week.
Absolute disgrace.
I'm sure no one will mind.
Move him out of here, there.
Ricky Hatton didn't go over for his fighter because he risked getting abducted and sold into sexual
I never said that.
Both have been rape victims. I'm not watching Frank Buglioni live on Saturday night. You're out of your mind.
Jesus Christ, get yourself a life.
He's actually a priest.
Yeah.
It's because his brother John Fury eye gouged him.
What have I told you all this time? He's going to end up sucked out, fucked out, looking for a handout.
Boxing nutters messenger group. I'm gonna be the king.
J-Pump, you know what I'm saying?
Welcome, folks, to episode 621 of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse. You can catch us at 8 o'clock in the UK, on Sunday evenings, 12 o'clock Pacific time in the United States, and then the next day, wherever you find your favorite podcast. You want to get on more of the fun, including the Boxing Nutters Messenger group, you better go to Patreon and check us out and see what level you would like. That is patreon.com/Boxing Asylum. Currently with me, we got Justin. Des will be here after he wraps up some stuff at the house. No Rob today. We do wish him the best and all of his family today. But we're going to get into it here. And Justin and I are going to go hardcore American on the American card here, I think. My God. The title of today's episode is The Demise of the Davis Brothers. We were supposed to have 3 fights with Davis Brothers happening on last night's card. We only ended up with 2, with Keon getting a second round stoppage, and then Kelvin getting upset by his brother's old foe, Nahir Albright, in a fights where he fought both guys and ended up being a no contest after Keyshawn tested positive for weed. But Nahir Albright is no joke, and no matter how you think he did against Keyshawn, some people think he might have done enough there. It's not a hugely popular, but there's people. This guy has managed to lower the stock of 2 Davis brothers now, and one of them in defeat with this majority decision victory over Calvin. Why didn't Keyshawn fight? Well, Keyshawn didn't make the weight. Claims he can't do it anymore. Came in a whole 4.5 pounds over. But he also came in dancing and having a grand old time. He didn't look like a guy who killed himself to make the weight by any stretch. They had this big venue there for him, fits 10,000. All these people coming to see their hometown brothers in the ring, particularly their champion fighter, Keyshawn. And he didn't bother to make the weight, and he didn't seem to care. And then he's in, the crowd taking pictures, just having a grand old time. Like, he doesn't give a fuck. He missed out on $1 million purse. After Edwin De La Sena said, I'm not getting in the ring with you. They tried to push the fight on. He said, no, it's not happening. And I wouldn't be shocked if Bob Arum kicked over a little bit to Edwin for his troubles based on all that and said, no, we're not giving Keyshawn this chance. He fucked this up. And I get the hunch somebody got in his ear actually and said, $1 million? You can get more than that. Yeah. He's probably getting to the end of his contract and thinking about moving elsewhere. But how dare you do that to your hometown? How dare you don't care? I've been on the side of this when Mike Alvarado just decided he was going to be fucked up all through training camp and came in no shape to fight Brandon Rios in their third fight. It's a pathetic display of disrespect. How dare you you treat your fans that way and you don't give them a fight? And it wasn't for reasons of getting injured or something crazy like that. You just didn't give a shit. If you would have came in around 137 or so, I bet they would have made the fight. I bet if Davis did that, they would have made the fight. So some effort, but he basically went in where he would have comfortably just, nicked the junior welterweight limit by about a half a pound. That's pathetic. And then on top of all this, after Nahir Albright beats his brother, what do Keon and Keyshawn do? They go and accost Nahir Albright in his locker room. They physically assault him. When he comes out to talk to Mark Kriegel about what just happened, Albright has a new abrasion on his head that he didn't get in a boxing match with the other Davis brother. This is trash behavior. It's nothing that should be tolerated ever. We expect a lot from boxing. It's the low down, dirtiest sport in the freaking world at the end of the day. We're full of gangsters, crooks, hucksters, and any other dirty, terrible person you can basically think of. But this is just a different level. Being just sore losers. What? You got upset in your hometown? Shit happens. Take it like a fucking man. And, it would have just been an undercard fight if Keyshawn had made weight or at least came close to it. And then there would have been, probably would have just let it go. But no, that was the end of the night for the Davis brothers, was their brother getting beaten by Nahir Albright, who really is an exceptional fighter, pro box alum, just a very talented guy who was out of the ring for almost 2 years, too. He was ended up not being that huge of an underdog, and it's because, like we saw, he was very much in that fight, and he pulled it out. He put on an exceptional performance in there. But we're talking instead of about the Davis brothers being just absolute dickheads, losing fans, insulting their hometown audience. I don't know if I've ever seen anybody's stock go down that quickly at an event in my entire life. It's absolutely staggering. I mean, I guess, Tyson fighting Holyfield, it might have been something like that. Galata, throwing a combo on Riddick Bowe's testicles and sparking a riot. But it's approaching that level. Not the worst, but my God, we're getting right up there. This is just absolute trash behavior. And we haven't even had a chance to mention Abdullah Mason looking very strong and stopping Jeremiah Nakatila. He's as good at 135 as potentially anybody. But our man on the ground was Justin. He was actually there at the event. And I got to tell you, I mean, that's just from the on the couch audience view. What was it like for that audience? Was the air of disrespect clear in that crowd?
I mean, every time it was funny. They still had a good crowd. I was surprised because they gave refunds. I mean, yeah, the refund wasn't offered till like 10 o'clock in the morning. So I think a lot of people probably didn't even pay attention that they were even offering the refund because you only had to like 4:30 to actually get your money back. And then Ticketmaster they're not even there on Saturdays. So, like, you really have to know how to navigate their whole freaking website. So, I just, I was like, man, I'll say it again. I've said this 1,000 times. Y'all don't understand how lucky you are that you have boxing. Now, Matt understands because he doesn't have boxing right on top of him. But
yeah,
I don't think
pop a plane.
I don't think people over that listen to this realize how lucky they are to have access to fights. I mean, it's like we have nothing here. There's absolutely North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, Virginia is extremely rare. We don't have any boxing comes to these areas. So
Which is a shame. How do you produce Evander Holyfield and Vernon Forrest and not have a great boxing scene in Atlanta?
They don't. It's like So I was going regardless. Even after the fight got canceled, I was like, you know what? But I have a theory on this, and I think I'm right. Keyshawn come out and said he was such a prick in his interviews after the weigh-in. And, like, he was just basically, he come out and said, I didn't make weight because I can't make weight. I couldn't make weight anymore. I'm a 140 fighter. I'm going up. I'm not worried about it. Basically, fuck off. Then I read so many articles before the fight. Everybody kept giving him hell because he picked De Los Santos. There's a reason now that he picked the easiest defense at 135. They manufactured De Los Santos. They did some
He's
maneuvering.
been out of the ring for 2 years since that stinker against Stevenson.
They did maneuvering to get De Los Santos in that position because I think they knew he's not making this weight anymore. He's not living the life. He's struggling. We've already got the date set. The tickets are, but we've got it. You know, he's like you said, he wants to run that top rank contract out. So they went and picked the easiest guy they could find. And what pisses me off is he knew. That's the problem. You knew weeks ago you wasn't even going to come close to this weight. Because you come out and told everybody I wasn't going to make the weight. This is not like he killed himself. He's like, no, like you said, I come in at 136 and I was at 0.7 pounds over or some crap. He was almost 5, and you could imagine how much he probably was when he got up in the morning. Because they said he tried. I think, he might have done what everybody does just to see. So I'd imagine he was more than 4 or 5 pounds. I'd probably 6 or 7 when he woke up in the morning. He didn't care. And it was funny as hell because they didn't show him. They didn't talk about for the first 2 hours about that fight much. They didn't really get into it. They didn't have anything on the screen, but they finally showed him showing up. And he started getting booed. And I knew he was going to get booed because Norfolk is not a rich city. The fans there last night are not loaded with money. Norfolk is not a boxing area. They don't produce your champions every month. They get behind their people. He fucked a lot of people over last night, him and his brothers. The whole situation was jacked up. He didn't care. The woman behind me summed it up. I don't know where she got this from, but she kept calling him a dog head bitch. I don't know why he's a dog head bitch. And then when she started yelling it, 10 or 12 people started yelling, yeah, dog head bitch, dog head bitch. So every time they showed him on camera, that's what you were hearing was a dog head bitch chant. I don't know why he's a dog head bitch, but that was just, for me, I really saved the event because I was like, you know what? I don't get boxing. I got nothing else to do. I don't have to go back to work till August 26th. I got a shit ton of time to do whatever the hell I want to do. I wanted to see Abdullah Mason. Actually, he's my favorite. I pushed him ahead of Keyshawn Davis. I'm an Abdullah Mason fan. He is the humblest, just nicest guy.
That's the same thing Bradley was saying, and he was saying about the whole family. He was saying that about the whole family.
There was a whole group of people behind me, and they were like, man, this guy is the truth. Like, he is just so nice. All the fans liked him. They were all like, I thought maybe they would clear out after the Davis brothers lost, but no, they all stayed because they all know boxing. They wanted to see Mason fight. It's a shame that Nakatani got that cut because Mason was getting ready to just obliterate in the next round. Nakatani got lucky the cut happened because he was going to go down. It was coming, and it wasn't going to be pretty. But, yeah, Davis, it bugs you. I mean, he had everybody there behind him. He had Michael Vick. I don't know if anybody you know who Michael Vick is, but I don't know if everybody knows who Michael Vick is. I love Michael Vick. Falcons guy. He was there. Allen Iverson, NBA Hall of Fame legend, was there. All the rappers, everybody was there because they already bought the tickets and they were already going to show up anyway. But yeah, I didn't know that they assaulted Albright because I didn't know that in the crowd. They don't show that shit. They didn't show the interview in the crowd. I slept about 1 today because I didn't get home at about 5 in the morning, so I didn't know he assaulted Albright. But you know what? That sums it up. And it's not a big issue that Kelvin Davis saw because I remember me and you've talked about this before. We've watched him on Pro Box, Kelvin Davis. He's nothing special. He is a below average fighter. He's not that good. He's not that good of a fighter. So he was going to lose anyway. He's come close to losing a couple of times. And Albright had the dog in him. I mean, that guy comes.
He's a good
win.
fighter. I've been
win.
consistently impressed with Nahir
Yeah,
Albright.
Albright was ready to roll. So I don't know. Keyshawn, I didn't get this out of him. I didn't see these impressions out of him. But you're right. I'm not a conspiracy theory, but I'm 100% on board with you. They promote themselves. I guarantee. Top Rank is in part with Keyshawn Davis. He self-promotes himself. I didn't realize that he's got his own full promotional company, and Top Rank just works with him now. So you're right. He's breaking free. It's called DB3 Promotions or some shit. D3. I don't know what the hell they're calling themselves. Oh, Brothers Davis 3. BD3 Promotions. So they're breaking loose. They're doing their own thing. I think
just fucked their start of their company.
They
Jesus,
did.
All three of their stock went down there. Like Leon got a fucking second round knockout. He looked.
It's fucked up because Terrence Crawford was there last night too. He was in town for all this stuff because they're under his stable too because they train with Bomac.
How they learn nothing from him? You talk about a guy who's beloved by his hometown who would never disrespect.
I was talking to guys in the crowd, and I'm like, man, they didn't. I said they sure as hell didn't get Terrence. I said Terrence Crawford would never have pulled that shit. He never would have done no shit like that. I said they don't listen, and I want to say it. Some people don't know how to handle fame. They don't know how to handle money, and it looks like Keyshawn might be that guy and his family. Some people can handle it, some can't. He should have done the right thing weeks ago and come out and said, I'm not making this weight. I'm refunding the tickets. We're going to recancel the event. We're going to reschedule it, or I'm moving up.
Or it's going to be contested at a catch weight or at the 140-pound limit.
What's going to happen is it's going to be De Los Santos versus Abdullah Mason. That's going to be the fight because Abdullah Mason is ranked high in the WBO too. So it's going to be De Los Santos will still get his title shot because you got to give it to him now. You can't take it away from him. So the next fight for Abdullah Mason is him knocking out De Los Santos, and he's going to be the WBO lightweight champion. You can mark that down right now. Mason earned his shot last night. He stepped up. De Los Santos was robbed of his shot.
It's supposed to be against Sam Noakes. Sam Noakes is ranked number 1, I think they said last night.
Well, it'd be Mason and Noakes then. But I want to say De Los Santos, you can't. I don't know how he would get pushed unless they pay him off.
He was because he was a voluntary defense.
I would say that the worst case scenario for De Los Santos is they say, hey, you're going to have to fight the Noakes Mason winner, and we'll pay you to sit back for a minute. And he probably don't give a shit. He sat up for 2 years anyway. So I don't think he's going to get paid regardless. I don't think he's going to get paid probably to sit down. Noakes versus Mason, I don't have a lot of hope for Noakes. Mason he has it all. He is so calm. He has all the shots.
He gets hit a bit. Like he's one of my top tier blue chippers, but he gets hit.
Mason's going to get it. He's going to get it. He showed up. He took over the spotlight. The crowd actually was cheering for him louder than they were just as much the Davis brothers because, I mean, hey, he stepped up. And it is what it is. We can sit here and beat this dead horse for 12 hours if we want to. Davis' stock went down. He's going to move up to 140. I don't know how they're going to move up the 140 thing, but you're right. I don't see Top Rank. I think Top Rank's got to be pissed how he pulled him. But then on the other hand,
if he has any contractual obligations to Aram's going to fuck with him. He'll keep him out of the ring if there's any contractual ties. Like all sorts of these guys have their own promotional entities and shit like that. But if there is still like he owes Aram some fights, Aram can fuck with him and eat up some of his career. And after last night, I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't have that urge.
I mean, why not? What's Aram got else to do? He don't give a shit about fucking people over. He's 110 years old. I mean, he don't give a damn. If you piss him off, he could be spiteful as hell because what does it matter to him? I mean, he's going to be dead soon. I ain't going to be dirty about it, but he don't give a shit about Keyshawn Davis and his brothers. And in fact, because it's not like Keyshawn Davis is a massive money maker for him. So I think he's just more the bad business. And he calls him, that's what people in the crowd kept yelling. They said, how the hell is that dog-headed bitch call himself the businessman? And
dog-headed It's just.
And I got some more. She I said she
Go
was the
for it.
most,
We need to get this lady on the podcast.
she was the most annoying woman I've ever met in my life. She wearing sunglasses, screaming like a damn fool. People behind me were losing their mind. I told you that one guy was like, I bet she gets up in the morning and screams at her fucking eggs if they're not frying fast enough. Fry, you son of a bitches. Fry, you son of a bitches. Because she kept calling every fighter scoot, scoot, and scoop, scoop. And she kept, the Boca Chica guy?
Uh-huh.
She was rooting for him, and she kept calling him El Caliente. And she kept doing the little ya chant. I don't know what the hell she was doing. But the things she did, I couldn't help it. She was being racist herself. I just thought it was funny. You had Nakatani and Atundi are from Africa.
Uh-huh.
So she's like, and Atundi took a couple of shots. He's like, you're not beating that barefoot, rock walking piece of shit, effing long arm bastard. And I was like,
Jesus Christ.
And Nakatani, she's like, you ain't beating that tribal, grew up barefoot, eating dirt. You ain't knocking him out. And I was like, God almighty. It's like, I told Ryan, I said, if I'd have said that shit, I said, we wouldn't be getting out of this stadium. I said, it was funny as hell. And she was like, and Albright, she was like, yeah, I said, that asshole sitting there wearing a skirt, whooping your ass. And I was like,
I imagine if it's nonstop, it would have gotten annoying. But
it was so annoying I couldn't stand it. But there was funny moments, like I thought the barefoot bitch, and then she kept and Atundi, she's like, you can't beat that long arm motherfucker, looking like the Slender Man. That's like,
good one.
I yelled that out. I yelled the Slender Man call.
Oh, okay.
I was like, he looks like the damn Slender Man. And she's like, you damn right. Yeah, fuck him. And that made the day for me. Yeah. So that dog head bitch Davis and his family, like I said, I didn't know they jumped. Now, they should have never been allowed. I'm telling you, security last night was the weakest. They had like 17-year-old girls running like security. And people were smoking weed. There was like guys vaping, smoking Newports. There was guys bringing in flask. And I'm like, and what was a 17, 18-year-old high school student going to go do to a 45-year-old man? Tell him he can't do that? It got crazy. And it was wild.
So
I told Ryan, I said, if we were a Where's Waldo picture, me and Ryan would have been found in about 5 seconds. I said it was fun though. I get along with everybody. It was fun, but yeah, but when Kelvin lost, I think the crowd kind of knew he was going to lose about round 5 or 6. They kind of started cheering for the Albright guy.
Albright found ways just stepping in like with that right hand, and he was
going for a home run with that right hand every time. It was just a tomahawk over the top right hand, and Davis doesn't use his length that much. I don't know why he started bouncing around like the last 3 or 4 rounds like he was some kind of great boxer. I think he was just trying to survive.
Yeah.
But he's the weakest of the brothers. Now, Keon, he's got good size for the weight class. He looked decent, but I got no respect for him now. Why would you go jump? Because Albright wasn't talking shit in the ring after it was over with and the cameras cut away and stuff. He wasn't over there like trying to fight nobody. He was in his corner just celebrating. He wasn't trying to talk shit. I think that goes back to the Keyshawn when they fought. I think that was just some shit, and they had that mentality of, we're gonna get back. And Albright from Philadelphia, he don't give a damn. I guarantee he fought them just as hard as they fought him when they went in his dressing room.
Well, like I said, I mean, he dropped both brothers' stock. There's not many guys who can say that,
Albright is a tough guy because he's awkward, he's in great shape, and he's just physical.
And he's quick too. He's quick.
He's not a guy that's going to fight because he's got a tough mentality. You're going to have to pin him. You're going to have to really. Nobody's going to have an easy fight versus him. So he's going to have a tough time finding fights now because you're not going to stand in line to fight that guy, Scoop or whatever the hell that one was called him. But it's going to be a hard time to fight him. But hey, I'm glad Davis lost now because I didn't know they were pulling some bullshit. And so I don't know. I got to see Michael Vick and Allen Iverson, so I was happy. Allen Iverson. I know people on here might not know the NBA, but I love Allen Iverson from Georgetown. I mean, that guy was awesome.
Wasn't he going by Meta World Peace for a while?
No, that's Ron Artest.
That was Ron Artest. That's right.
Yeah, Alan Iverson didn't change his shit.
Was it Artest that kicked the cameraman in the face too?
Yeah, Artest the one that jumped in. He kicked the camera in the face. He jumped in the crowd and attacked that guy like in the third row with an flying elbow.
Yeah, was that the Pacers versus the Pistons or something like that?
Yeah, he Jake the Snake Roberts DDT'd a guy in like a preseason game. He was. His nickname was the Thug. Ron Artest. That was his freaking nickname. He was just he was funny though. I mean, in the NBA, I think he's like the Dennis Rodman, Draymond Green. Sometimes you got to have those guys that be like, "Hey, you fouled my guy, I'm gonna knock the shit out of you." I mean, you got to have that fear guy on the team. That's what he was. But no, last night was. I had fun. I can complain about a lot of extra bullshit, like our waitress, but I'm not gonna get down that thing.
No worries. Yeah. In the realm of crazy sports incidents of people getting knocked around when they didn't expect it, or cameramen getting kicked, kind of shit like that. If you're into that, look up when Antonio Brown kicked the punter in the head on a punt return. Yeah. It's like you're not defending for it because you're not expecting this dude to just come and just flat out kick you in the head. But I mean, just
like when Myles Garrett ripped the quarterback's helmet off and started beating him with it.
God damn it!
Anyhow, you don't see that in soccer. I know people. You don't see a guy rip another guy's cleat off and start beating the shit out of him. With it.
Oh man.
And the rest of the card, Abdullah Mason it's so funny. I was thinking about during the fight, we really praised how much we liked Hernandez. Was it last week?
Vladimir Hernandez, yeah.
No, Hernandez, the Cuban guy. Is that his name, Vladimir?
Who are you talking about? Oh, you're talking about Yoanel. The 168er, yeah, or 160 pounder, yeah.
160. Well, Isley was on there last night, and he's a 160, and Yuri Cedeno, they're 160, and they're both ranked in the top 10 like him. He would beat their ass like a drum. Isley is, I think me and you said this. Troy Isley is Terrell Gaucher 2.0. He's not as good
as Gaucher.
No, I guess he's the poor man's Terrell Gaucher, which is pretty bad. But even Bomac was like, you could hear him, like yelling, like fight. Do something. Like he does not want to engage. He does not want to fight you. He wants to try to outbox you, but he's not that good of a boxer. He's getting ready. He's a knockout coming. When he steps, like the Cuban last week would destroy him. And then I don't know if y'all watched this fight. This was deep on the undercard. He's undefeated prospect from the Dominican, and he's ranked like number 9 by the WBO. I don't know who's got the WBO middleweight right now. But he was an Olympian.
Is he one of those Dominicans that Samson picked up?
Yeah, he's the Samson guy, and they call him the Bazooka. He is so flat-footed. He has no head movement. He's another guy that Cuban or Alahanala Adames would absolutely rip their face off. So those are two guys that they might be ranked, but that's not a good thing they're ranked because they might get unlucky enough to actually walk into a world title shot and just get destroyed. So top rank, like I said, Mason was the only guy that I actually really cared to see, and he did what he was supposed to do.
Yeah, that Tiger Johnson Boca Chica fight was trash.
Oh, Boca Chica did more talking shit and machismo than actually throw a damn punch. And Tiger Johnson is I would say he's a step above Isley. At least he'll throw some shots. But the most entertaining thing was everybody in the crowd was like, man, Tiger Johnson's trainer was throwing some really sick combos. Did you see him? Like he was.
Yeah. He was showing him how he's doing and everything.
His combos
were
better than Tiger Johnson. His combinations were better than Tiger Johnson. He was throwing some really sick shots.
Yeah, that's his trainer is Prentice Brewer, and I feel like maybe that's Grady Brewer's brother. Was Greater Charles Brewer? I'm trying to remember. That was the 168 champion.
If you want to go watch some good fights, watch Charles Brewer. Man, that guy was in a war every damn fight he was in. But yeah, actually, I love Charles Brewer. That's another guy. I think was he the Axeman?
No, that was Nicholas Walters, wasn't it?
I think
there's
Brewer
more than one of them.
I think Brewer was something like that too, like some kind of name, like some kind of sharp instrument, whatever the hell he called himself. But yeah, it was. I had a good time. I mean, it's a long ass drive. I don't mind driving because fuck it, I drive every day of the week. But it was. I mean, hey, me and my brother, we don't get to hang that much, so we just got to talk shit for like 9 hours, and got to meet some different people, got to hang out. It wasn't bad. I mean, I just wish I didn't. Like I said, I didn't know they pulled that shit on Albright. But besides that, it is what it is.
Yeah, it was all in all a very, very crazy weekend. Best that I can figure. It was just pure insanity at the end of the day. I mean, with the weight issues and fights not happening, and
also found out this. I didn't
riding
know this.
dirt bikes up and down the goddamn road.
I didn't know this. I didn't know that the Top Rank had a ring card girl choreographer. So really? She had a headset on, and she was in charge of the ring card girls. So she would tell them where to stand. She would like give them hand signals, like smile, look this way, look down, put your arm on this guy, come over here. She had a walkie-talkie. I didn't know there was a ring card girl choreographer.
How do I get that job?
I don't know. She was hot. I don't know how she got it.
I definitely ain't getting that job then.
That's the only thing I pay attention. I watched her every round to see where she was, what hand motion she was doing and shit. She was wearing leather. She was hot. Had some leather pants on, and I'm sure she was a former model or something.
Or a ring card girl herself.
Yeah, that was probably the entertaining thing for me because I like watching the random shit in the crowd.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed the adventure there.
Always do.
Yeah, and that was unfortunately speaking of weight issues and stuff like that, the Pro Box main event got canned. It was supposed Justin Paul though was supposed to be on there, and he didn't make the weight, so that got canned. And instead, what the hell was it that we had a Coria against Michael Angeletti, who's he's a decent prospect. I mean, he just kind of walked him in there though. It was I don't know. It's tough to kind of tell with these guys when you got they're still coming up and you're trying to judge levels off of levels that are unknown and things of that nature. But I mean, he was just light years ahead of Corey. He was, I mean, a decent enough fighter, you could tell, and he just really was able to keep his hands in his pockets at the end of the day. And that's, I mean, you're able to do that from the outside, and guys can't get out of your stuff. I don't know. It's going to be a rough outing for him, to say the very least. Let's see here. I just want to.
Yeah, I got to watch everything I could, but I missed the Pro Box. I had to pick some. I had to choose the.
Yeah, you picked well.
I decided to watch the Simpson main event. I watched Wardley in the arena. I watched that on my phone. I was able to watch the Nakatani tension this morning. I just didn't get to the Pro Box, and I didn't get Apataya because I really didn't give a shit. I mean, he was fighting an absolute nobody. I didn't want to take my time to try to rush to get that in.
Yeah, and those I don't blame you. I got the reminder there looking through. So let's see here. Emiliano Moreno was on there. He's a decent prospect in his own way. I think he's got a ceiling though. His chin is way up in the air, and he tries to invite the right hand over the top. And one day someone's going to oblige and really clean his clock. But he beat the snot out of Eric Bonet, who's usually a pretty decent trial horse, but he is getting up in age, so it's kind of a little bit difficult to say if that means anything at this point in time. But they got another card coming up with here a couple weeks, I think this one is, and it's a good main event. It's going to be Lester Martinez, who's definitely a prospect to watch against Pierre Dembombe, who is we've seen kind of overperform in some fights, and seems quite capable. So that's a pretty good one. And I can't remember who's fighting, but Vladimir Hernandez going to be back out on that one. Good to see them keeping him busy because he's a hell of a fun fighter. And I think he's one of those guys that's going to end up ranked and get a short notice title shot kind of guy. And he just might make the most of it. So we will see on that. But I guess the mate going to next, because I don't think Des saw this one. He just popped in. but was action from Japan this morning that I had to watch a little bit later on, unfortunately. But that was Junto Nakatani taking on Nishida to unify belts at 118 pounds, and it was a good, fun fight. Well, it lasted, but Nakatani just kept finding a home for his left hand, as he does, and he developed a huge hematoma over Nishida's eye, and they had to pull the plug at the midway point of the fight. But just another dominant victory for Junto Nakatani, who I just continue to be so impressed with him, Justin. And you're wondering. You think to yourself, oh, from a country like Japan, you couldn't get two like holy shit, like amazing fighters back to back, with Inoue being the first one. Like, you couldn't get a following act that's anywhere close. But I find myself more and more thinking, I don't know, Junto Nakatani might be that following act, and he might just take the baton right away from Inoue, because this guy he's a vicious puncher, and he sets traps. That's what I'm impressed with. He's more than a come forward machine. He tries to set traps. Justin?
Yeah. That fight was basically, you were just waiting to see how long Ishida could last, because Nakatani from the first round was already setting him up, like you said, landing what he wanted to land, and that eye was fucked. I mean, they had no choice but to stop it, because he couldn't even see out of the eye. I think it was like a baseball in his eye.
Oh, it was nasty. I mean, it wasn't one of the nastiest ones that I've seen, but it's probably the worst hematoma I've seen this year.
I think the difference between Nakatani and Inoue is, I think Inoue is a little bit more, I think he's a little bit more smoother. I think his stuff's a little bit more fluent. He's a little more fluid. It's like Nakatani is more of a, and this is not a knock on him, he is so skilled at what he does. He's a power puncher, but he knows what he's doing. He knows how to cut the ring off. He knows what he's good at. He knows what he's setting up, and that's what makes him so good. And if they do fight, I'm going to lean towards, I've always thought Nakatani he does have a great shot. I'm going to lean towards Inoue, just because Nakatani, you saw yesterday, or whenever the fight was, Ishida leaves himself open. I mean, Nakatani leaves himself open a lot, because he took a lot of clear shots too. And he keeps saying, well, Inoue can't handle my power. But Nakatani takes a lot of shots too. I don't think he can handle Inoue's power. So I think that's going to come down to who's going to land the perfect shot first, because Nakatani is wide open. Inoue, he has his defensive issues. That is going to be a war. Both guys are there to be hit. They're also going to land their big shots on the other. It's going to be a great fight. I think they'll make it. I think you said it won't be next, because I think Inoue has to get a mandatory out of the way. Nakatani just unified, so I think he's open. I think he could fight now, I guess, if he wanted to. I don't know. I mean, if Inoue, I hope he doesn't have to fight the mandatory. I hope he can just go right into it if he wants to. But yeah, that'll be a great fight. Nakatani is just a beast. He's a beast, but Inoue's a beast. That could be. It's funny, because if they were at a bigger weight, this would be one of the biggest fights we've seen in years. It's not their fault, but them being at a smaller weight, this fight's not going to get the press it probably deserves. Just because
if they were two Americans,
yeah,
or even like two Brits or a Brit and American, it would be a different world. But yeah, because they're two Japanese guys, and I feel like every week I end up talking about this fight, because like it's for me, and it's so much more in our grasp. Like I think that this is probably for me. I might be looking forward to it more than Canelo versus Crawford. Like honestly, for me, I think Nakatani against Inoue is like Pacquiao Mayweather Prime's level of intrigue for me. I can't get enough of considering this, because you can see so many attributes in both fighters that can lead them to victory, and you can see flaws in both fighters that can lead their opponent to victory. And it's just a wondering for me. And Des, I know you might not have caught this fight, but I just keep wondering, will Inoue's right hand do more damage, or will Nakatani's left hand do more damage? Because they know that each other's going to be throwing it, and they're going to be trying to let it loose with counters. If not throwing the one, the third, the fourth shot, trying to counters with their hard shots. It's just, these are two guys whose offense is their defense, and it's truly like looking like one of the most peak pitched high level offensive battles that I could think of that could be made in boxing in, I can't even remember how many years. It's just a stunning fight to make.
Yeah, it's a brilliant fight. It's mouth-watering. I still go with Inoue. I think he's a generational great. I don't think Nakatani is, but it's a very good fight, I've got to say.
It's interesting. I think that you might be talking about stuff that comes down to the fine margins and things like that. And I don't know, Justin. I really like Rudy Hernandez as Nakatani's trainer. He does the strategic work he does with them. I think really comes shining through. And in much in the way that I think that Freddie Roach developed that right hook of Manny Pacquiao's, I think that Hernandez is starting to develop that right hand of Nakatani's as well.
Yeah, Hernandez has been around, and he's been on the Asian scene now for years. So he knows all about these guys. He knows the culture. So he's a great trainer he fits right well with Nakatani. And I think Des is right. I lean Inoue. But the key for me is it's going to be very simple. Inoue has been knocked down a few times. He's been hurt a few times, but I don't think he's ever been hit by a shot like Nakatani can throw. And that for me is just the fight. Can Inoue
and vice versa. And vice versa.
And Nakatani, he's never been hit like this. I don't think it's going to go 12. I do not see that fight going all the way to the end. I just think both guys punch too hard for it to go all the way to the distance. There's no way that either guy can stand up to the other guy the whole fight. But I think it's going to be a war, but it's not going 12. I just don't see how those guys being so skilled and they're going to be able to land their shots that one of the other guys they're going to be able to stay 12. I don't see that happening at all.
I think the difference between the two, I think Inoue has this ability, and this is what generational greats can do. Hopkins was one, De La Hoya was one, Mayweather was one. A generational great can make very good fighters look very ordinary. And Inoue has a knack of making very good fighters, a la Fulton, Tapales, Neri. He makes them look really ordinary. Now, Donaire managed to run Inoue to the wire, but in the return, he got rid of him inside 2 rounds. Inoue is a special, special talent. And it's very hard to compare motor skills because on paper, they might be very even, but there's something about Inoue. Not only his punch, but the way he goes looking for you and the way he finds you. So it's a really good fight, but I just edge with Inoue on this one.
What I really am enjoying is the fact that I'm so into the potential of this fight it's got me just watching more of the nuanced stuff about how they go about their business. And it's an interesting fight in just little subtle ways, and the things that Inoue really doesn't fight going backwards whatsoever. He fights going forwards. He might bounce a little bit back to avoid some offense, to avoid your offense, but he just doesn't do his work off the back, but he comes forward. Nakatani does a lot of that too. But Nakatani as well, I see something with him is that whereas Inoue's defense is his feet, kind of like he'll move away and stuff like that, get out of range and stuff, shift corners a little bit. Nakatani is not afraid to kind of stand in the pocket and get under things. And that's kind of been the kryptonite when it comes to Inoue, is someone that can hang in the pocket and come over the top on him. And to quote Tim Bradley's phrasing, Inoue, to win this fight, he's gonna have to hold the phone and he's gonna have to hold it strong, because if he does that thing where he drops his right hand when he pops his jab or a left hook sometimes, Nakatani's going to find a home for that left hand, and we're going to see just how well Inoue is going to be able to handle it. Like, I'm looking ahead thinking like about what some good numbers to bet on might be. I honestly think the bet that I'll probably be taking, regardless of how it's looking for who wins with the odds, which, you know, could entice you one way or the other, just based on value. But I think there might be an intriguing bet for both fighters to hit the canvas in this fight. Just a hunch. But yeah. And then also, let's see here. Let me make sure I got his opponent correct here. Hopefully ESPN hasn't changed all that up. But we saw Tenshin Nasukawa on there. And my God, from the kickboxer who cried against Floyd Mayweather, things sure have turned a corner for him because he keeps picking up these victories. And he got another one. Excuse me. I'm trying to struggle with the guy's name here. I've watched so much boxing today at this point in time. I've gone cross-eyed.
Santillan.
That was, there you go. Yeah. And it was pretty fun watching this one because neither guy really necessarily had the power to knock out the other one. And I thought that Santillan he definitely landed his own shots in there that were, you know, worthy blows and such. I mean, he landed some clean shots, but at some point in time, Nasukawa just was able to start finding that left hand and just over the top. And it was something to behold. But yeah, he just didn't have the power to put him down. But he's a developing fighter still at this point in time, Justin. But I mean, really, in the most legitimate way, I can't say, and it sounds horrible saying it this way, but I can't say how impressed I was being like, wow, this is the same guy who cried when he fought Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah.
You know,
I think he's a tidy little boxer, but the lack of power is going to get him. I don't think he punches hard enough but he's lucky for him at the small weight classes. I mean, he'll probably be getting a title shot in his next couple of fights. That's usually how it goes with these smaller weight classes. He'll be getting it soon. I just don't think he has the pop. I mean, he's got a little ability, but there's nothing special about Tenshin. I don't think he's definitely not going to fall in Inoue, Nakatani mold or Higa, any of the I don't think he's going to be any of the Japanese great guys or anything. I think he just, and you're right, I can't help it. I'm just always going to think about when he cried. You're not trying to make fun of somebody, but you're right. That's what you just want to remember it because he cried in a fight where he wasn't even supposed to win. Like, why? I don't know why he acted like that. Like he really thought.
But if I remember how it went, it was supposed to be like an exhibition. Floyd's been having plenty of those, and like Nasukawa went in there and like he landed, I think, a clean one on Floyd, and Floyd's like, "Okay, bitch," and he just walked him down and beat the snot.
Floyd is still Floyd. I mean, he's still who he is. He still has that fight in him. He's not going to let some kickboxer punk him. And that wasn't going to happen at all. And so he had to teach him a lesson. He had to whoop him a little bit. He had to spank him on the ass real quick, and he made him cry. I mean, Floyd you were not going to show him up at his exhibition. That was not going to happen. That was the mistake he made by trying to come out and actually win an exhibition fight. Because I think he actually was trying to win the exhibition fight, and he got showed. You don't do that to legends.
Yeah. Take your check, have a little bit of fun and go home. If you want to play a game, I'm going to knock your ass in the next Tuesday. I outweigh you by 30 pounds. But anyways, Des, I'll tell you the one fight that I didn't get to see this weekend, and it sounds like I missed a hell of an interesting one, was Callum Simpson and Ivan Zuko in a battle of undefeateds. Simpson heavily favored, found himself on his ass in the first and the third, only to come back and stop Zuko in the 10th. I believe you did get a chance to see this super middleweight battle, and seems like it did not fail to entertain by any stretch.
No, Callum Simpson's a ticket seller. He's done very well over in that part of the world. They love him out there. And we've got a few of the lads on our chat speak really well of Callum Simpson as a person, how he reaches out to his community, and he's been received really well. I always thought this was a hard one. We didn't know too much about Zuko. He come in at 21-0 with 18 KOs. So he can punch, but we don't know to what level. I've never been overly impressed with Callum Simpson. I think he's been fast-tracked, and I've not got a lot of confidence in the pathways boxer build for their fighters. I've seen them get it wrong too many times with kids that, I'm talking about Dan Aziz, really. I'm talking about Ben Whittaker, Fraser Clark. I don't think they brought them along the correct way that was good for them, beneficial to them. But I'm not quite sure how far Callum Simpson goes at this pace. He's now a European champion. Now, middleweight division is probably the one division where, the super middleweight division, is the one division where you could probably get away with it a little bit. But I still think I'd be reluctant to hold Callum Simpson back a little bit, just because I think he's been pushed a little bit too fast. Now, I know when you win a European title, you can't go backwards, but there's loads of domestic fights for him. I think these are all winnable fights if he was to perhaps somehow get Mark Jeffers a win and get him back in. Jack Arnfield still knocking about. Elliot Matthews is hanging around that top 10 British super middleweight list. Lerone Richards is a recognisable name. I think he beats Lerone. Steve Woodall would be a fight I think he could win. But I'd rather them fights for Callum than taking him into European level and then pushing him up because he's got that top 15 ranking into world class. I don't think he's ready for that. Last night was it was a really fun fight. It was an exciting fight, and you can't fault Callum or Ivan Zuko at all. They were both really game, worked really hard, and gave us loads of entertainment. The first round, Simpson got dropped on a short, I think it was a left hand on the inside. He got back up, he responded well, but he got caught again in the third. And after the third, Callum was very dogged and determined, and he stayed with the job. And when you've been dropped twice in 3 rounds, your job is, let me just win the next round. Let me just win the next round. Let me just win the next round. And if you go into the sort of the 8-9 round territory and it's leveled off a bit, you're back in the game. But that's the long game you've got to play when you get dropped early twice in a fight. But Zuko got exhausted having to work with Callum. And Callum showed me his fitness is very good. And in the 10th round, he was getting touched, Zuko, but I think a lot of it was combined with exhaustion as well. And he went down 3 times. The referee stopped it. It was a really good fight between 2 kids of a very similar level. If I'm going to be critical of Callum, I think he looks a bit raw and stiff. I'd keep him at domestic level, but I don't think that's their intention. It was a decent win. I think he's achieving really well, Callum. But his best win is Zach Chelly. So his ceiling is still quite low. I'd be very careful how you match him from now on.
Yeah, and he's got a bit of hardware now, so I mean he could dink around and fight Europe's middleist fighters and kind of make a few bucks while getting some on-the-job training and see if he can make the next level.
It's tough though. It's tough that, Matty, because when you go to a place like France, Italy, Germany, or you bring them guys over, Zuko's a prime example. You can get caught out with unheralded guys that are very sound technically, and you don't want to go anywhere.
There's always a Leonard Bundu out there, right?
There's a Leonard Bundu and them sort of guys that, yeah, exactly. It's a brilliant example, mate. It's a brilliant example, and the European title means an awful lot to them countries and fighters from them countries. So I'd just be very careful with Callum Simpson because I think he's got a value. And I'm going to agree with Joe Burns and Joseph from our chat. There's a lot to like about Callum Simpson, but I just think he needs to be a little bit. He needs to be matchmaked a little bit better, and it needs to just put the brakes on just ever so slightly because I don't think he's European class. And if you're European class, you're hitting fringe world class, and he's not there.
I think last night too was he fought the wrong fight. I think once he got knocked down in front of his fans, I think he opened himself up too much. He kind of fought the fight Zuko wanted. He was going for the knockout. The crowd was getting behind. I don't think that's the fight that he should have fought. I mean, I've seen him fight a couple of times, but you're right. They're going to have to. Nothing against Zuko, but you kind of see what level he's at. And just not trying to knock him, but yeah, Simpson definitely kind of should never have got into a war with Zuko. But Des summed it up very simple. You're at the point of no return almost now, where if they don't put the brake on now and try to maybe get a domestic guy, then you're going to be in a situation where Simpson's he's not going to be able to take on the top rated guys if they're trying to go that way. I don't think he's ready for that. Like you said, and we've always talked about this. There's a visible line in boxing that once you cross it, we've talked about that with Toma. Once you cross it, you cannot go back unless you lose 2 or 3 times. Once you get to a point, there is no turning around and saying, hey, maybe he needs to go fight this level, that level. No, that's it. And he's at that. He's on top of the mountain now where he's got to be. They got to be careful because if Zuko had a little bit more punch to him, he would have stopped him last night because he was landing just as many clean shots as Simpson was. And so, yeah, that is I don't think that's definitely not how they wrote it, but hell, Boxer's done anyway. Simpson probably won't be fighting for them anyway. I mean, they're done anyway now on Sky. So I don't know where I don't know where Simpson's going to go anyway because Boxer's done on Sky. They're done June the 30th. So I don't know really how all that's going to – is Boxer going to get sucked in by DAZN?
Well, lucky us, who just joined the call and might be able to give us some insight into the Boxer deal with Sky. Well, that might be Seconds Out own Eamon Khan.
Yeah, that's the man. That's the man to ask.
There you go. It's on the floor for you, my friend.
Never heard of him. Sounds like a bum.
Potentially so. Like we have never seen any proof that he actually has a physical address whatsoever. He could live in a box.
Hello, gents. How you all doing?
Doing well.
I'm good, Ames. Good, mate.
Good. And thank you guys for giving us great listenership for the last few weeks. I've been stuck with work, otherwise I would have joined. I was supposed to join on yesterday as well too, but you've been really plugging away, and I really appreciate listening, especially on the travel back from places. It's been really beneficial. So thanks for cracking on. Anyway, cracking on with the boxing talk. I thought just first of all, I didn't see too much of the undercard because of course you're in and out and working and all that sort of stuff. But I thought that fight with Simpson and Zuko was incredible. It was such a entertaining fight. We were watching from, couldn't quite get back to our seats because there's loads of people like standing and finding spots outside of just sitting on their seats at the event in Barnsley, and we were just outside one of these big posts that was obviously holding the canopy for the fight for the ring, and turned away for a brief moment and then saw Callum climbing off the deck after a flash knockdown, which was quite the surprise. Callum's always looked quite tight and quite someone who you wouldn't really question whether there is anything that they're hiding. And when you have a fight like that, you kind of contextualize it in thinking of the past fights where you get to that point of no return where Justin is talking about, have they maybe held him back a little bit or had the benefit of the A-side matchmaking to protect that as much as possible. Time will only really tell unless something comes out. But you never really hear stories from other super middleweights that have dropped him or whatever it is. So maybe there isn't anything more to say about that. But it's always, I always kind of find it quite funny. People say this is great learning fight and exactly what someone needed for their fight. And it was the case with Callum, but it was also a case of Callum was taking some big licks to really kind of figure that out. And it was just a small little adjustment that he made, and it was just to give himself some space for that counter shot. So that overhand left that Zuko was throwing was finding the target all too frequently. You can see what he was doing. He's just looking to cover up, let Callum have his barrage, and then land that shot. And it took him 5-6 rounds to figure that out and then find that space. But it made for like a brilliant fight. And I think he played Callum too much into the roar of the crowd and the emotion, and he really wanted to deliver that knockout quicker than it was coming. But he has a good team with him, good corner with him, and they sussed out what they needed to do. And I thought he brought home the victory in a really impressive fashion as well. So I thought it was a brilliant win for him. In terms of Boxer's future, not too sure, to be honest with you. We've seen the articles that have come out. You obviously hear stuff around the industry and whispers and Usually, when it's a case in boxing, it's a case of you heard this and you heard that, and whenever you hear things, there's usually some element of truth of it. You've got to piece together what it is and what part fits where. But whenever it comes to huge deals, whether it be broadcast, business, and they're in a public eye, you will hear 18 months to a year before the end of the deal that something is in the works. Something always leaks. That's just how the usual general pattern of these sort of things happens. And you never saw that with Boxer. And the date kept coming forward. The deadline kept creeping ever closer. And nothing of that ever materialized. Then you start kind of hearing whispers about Sky's interest, what Sky might do, TNT, other promotional outfits making moves from other positions. So in that time, Warren had moved from BT, now TNT, to DAZN. And you hear that TNT were interested in keeping Frank, but couldn't, went over to DAZN. You know that DAZN seemed to be swallowing a lot of the boxing up and want to be the one-stop shop for it in the UK. So you start thinking maybe there are moves that Shalom can make as well. But in terms of specifically for the future of boxing, everyone concurs within the sport that if Sky Sports were to pull out, then it would be a major, major hit for the sport in terms of availability and viewership and interest. And that's the real concern right now. I hear lots of things. Nothing's ever concrete until it is. I've not had anything corroborated in terms of anything, I'd say, multi-sourced. I've heard one person say, so I'll give you for an example. I heard an announcement come as soon as tomorrow or this week, but I've not had that corroborated by anyone else. And then I've heard the same sort of, I heard on the opposite side of the chain that Sky Sports might take a step back for a number of months and then come back in September because there's quite a few things to sort out with with Boxer at the moment. So there's nothing really concrete as to what the future is, and that's what the real worry is, because that leaves that feeling of uncertainty as to whether Sky are committed. You would think that with the options on the table, I don't know who is in a strong enough position to have made their case to take over the reins from Ben Shalom on an exclusivity deal. Who has made a strong enough case for it? I don't think, with respect to any of the promoters who've done some good work, of course, I don't think anyone's made a strong enough case off the back of what Eddie Hearn was able to do. I think off of the back of what Eddie Hearn was able to do, that's why they went with Ben Shalom, and they wanted to take the risk, and that hasn't worked. So now Sky, I imagine, will be less inclined to take a risk and give exclusivity, which is why you're hearing about the possibility that promoters can pitch their fights and try to bring a better depth of cards and quality of cards off of multiple promoters working together to make fights. I don't understand why Sky couldn't also. There's a strong team there that have been within boxing for a number of years. Why they couldn't start their own kind of outfit and not have a conventional promoter, but just run boxing or boxing promotion themselves. It does feel like Sky want less responsibility and less. They want to stay away from that side of things, just be the broadcast element of things. But you would think with the people that they have, the likes of Ed Robinson, the likes of John Wish, who I believe was a boxer as opposed to Sky, but he's been around the sport for a number of years, and many others that have been with him, that they have that brain trust within them to go that route. But it's whether they would then want to delve themselves into that world when it's not one that pushes subscribership all that much. It's not one that delivers what the UK customers are looking for on a weekly basis, because they're looking for football. So it's always it's the subsidiary content alongside of you're getting the football and, well, you get the boxing as well, and you get the big nights and all that sort of stuff. And Sky are really in it for the pay-per-views. And right now, what's added into the mix is they can send, or any broadcaster who's interested can send a skeleton crew to go cover the boxing in a particular location, because right now, Riyadh season, Turkey Al Sheikh, they want to push their product to as many people as possible, and they're not limiting the biggest pay-per-views to just one particular outlet. So Sky can still have whatever fight it is that's coming. Although I don't think they have Usyk Dubois. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But previous fights they've been able to not have any interest in the fight other than broadcasting it, and that cuts down costs massively, but they can reap the rewards of the pay-per-view. So I think with that, they can pitch strongly to show what the big fights that are going on, because they have a relationship with Riyadh season and Turkey Al Sheikh. That will cover a number of fights throughout the year. Then look to get these promoters to create fights and have another 3-4 cards throughout the year. And then you're looking at your year covered alongside, if they can get a cheaper deal with Top Rank, which is also at the end of that broadcast cycle as well. Because if you look at Boxer's offering from the first year into the second year and now until this final year, the actual number of Boxer shows, I believe, have been less than what they put out the year prior. So they were on, if you look at what they could do, and the number I said just previously, I thought it was 6, 7, 8 shows there. That's about what they were offering anyway. So again, a lot up in the air right now. But the main thing and the main want for hardcore boxing fans is that boxing stays on Sky Sports.
Ames?
Yes.
It's lovely to speak to you, mate.
Hey, Des.
I think when you do exclusive deals with broadcasters, I think you put an awful lot of pressure on a channel to deliver high-end sport. And I don't think boxing sits well under the label of a high-end sport. It's not like Formula One or Premier League football or Grand Slam tennis. There's a rawness to boxing. It has a very organic feel to it. It's almost like the factory floor sport. It's blue collar. And boxing for the last 35 years has been built on small hall shows that balanced ticket money on the door and television revenue. And I know you work in a media, and I don't want you to put yourself in a bit awkward position when you're talking about broadcasters and people that work within those broadcasting companies. But do you think that always having to make boxing an arena event or a stadium event, do you think that put unnecessary pressure on boxing shows and promoters? And what we've lost is probably a huge chunk that makes up the sport of boxing, which is the small hall shows, the development of a fighter, kids that have won London ABA titles and Northwest titles, and watching them develop. Some make it, some don't. But we have wonderful stories and wonderful nights, kids fighting for Southern area belts and English titles, getting to British title level. Do you think, what I'm trying to ask you is, do you think we put too much pressure on a sport like boxing that really is the blue collar of the sports? It's not Formula One, it's not Premier League football. Do you think we're asking too much of it to always keep delivering your Dubois and Usyks and your AJs and Usyks and your Furies and Wilder type nights?
Yeah, I get, and I agree with what you're saying, and I think see promoters like, I'll give you an example. I think with boxers specifically, I think they missed a few tricks, and a lot of it is due to the inexperience. And if I could give you an example of a trick, quote unquote trick, of course, it's just the nature of the business. So if this Talma versus Dylan White fight happens, that's great for Frank Warren Queensberry because they get to feed again, quote unquote. We don't know what happens in the fight, and it being heavyweight boxing, but the thought process is you would keep that fight in-house because they're both Queensberry fighters, and you would have a name on the ledger of Moses Atalma, which he doesn't quite have yet. But the threat of what Dylan White is right now isn't what he was a few years back. And maybe promoters a lot more inexperienced might find themselves not looking at that as the opportunity they should be doing for their stable or their fighters or promoters, and rather if I give you a misstep that I feel that Boxer did was when they had Joe Parker, they signed Joe Parker, then agreed to have a fight against Joe Joyce on a different broadcaster, and then he was defeated by Joe Joyce on that other platform when he was signed to. That was if you look back at that, that was a real big misstep for Boxer and Ben Shalom. The other thing as well too is when it comes to those tricks is I don't think they hit up enough of those boxing embedded constituencies. So Manchester, I think Manchester should have been hammered. Those were where those big nights where Eddie went, where a lot of the talent were coming through, and Liverpool as well, another area where of course you always go, a lot of fights will happen in London and things like that, and Birmingham seems to be on the rise when it was a barren area for a number of years recently. But I don't think those sort of areas and those sort of fighters that you're talking about that aren't the top of the sport, aren't the most high profile, but will deliver, will sell tickets locally. And I think they started to figure that out with Callum. They got that with Callum, but I don't think they did that enough. And I think that's what's the whole need to. I mean, Eddie's kind of MO has always been he's moved from those smaller venues into the bigger ones, and you've seen that the crowds aren't, those arenas aren't as full as there would be, and it doesn't lead to as great a look as it could do if you went for somewhere smaller and it just looks a lot more full or a lot more busier. And I feel like Eddie has addressed that, because you see Eddie now downsizing from so Sheffield Fight Nights, they used to go to the Sheffield Arena, now they go to that Cannon Medical Park, right? I think that's a smaller venue. I think they've finally kind of accepted that whoever the talent they've got on aren't shifting the tickets that they would expect, right, at least for right now. So I think there has been that acceptance that the talent that they have aren't as hot as they want them to be right now. But that is it's been a long time coming, and there have been a lot of instances where they could have made a move to house themselves in a different area and make it look a lot busier and better than it is, as opposed to going for the biggest and highest spots and putting the burden on the talent to push the tickets and push the fights and push those big nights. So I do get that. It was nice to see though. There's, I mean, a couple of weeks ago, wasn't Boxer were at the what was the amateur show? I forgot the name of it now, but they were there for it in Manchester.
Yeah, he's having the Manchester Box Club, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah, so they were there for that, and that's 2 years in a row I think they've been there.
Mm.
So,
but I think James, there can be a balance to this. So for example, we can I like the idea of Sky pitching for Usyk and Dubois, or AJ and Usyk. I mean, that's great. That's your Lennox Lewis and your Prince Nazim night. I get that. So let's go back in time. So you had your Joe Calzaghe nights and your Nazim Hamed nights and your Lennox Lewis nights, but you also had your John Faxton nights and your Joe Murray nights. Why don't we still have that? So why did they pull the plug on small hall shows? So as a boxing fan, I'm not expecting two kids fighting for a Commonwealth title like the way Martin Power did, or like the way David Stewart did, or like the way I saw Danny Hunt and Lee Meager do. I understand where this belongs. This belongs at the York Hall. This belongs at the Goresbrook. We don't have to have boxing competing with Premier League football or Formula One racing. We can have boxing in its own organic seat, which is quite raw. It's factory floor. It's blue collar. But that's where the sport evolved from. That's where it builds from. That's the foundation. And then we can watch it grow. And if kids progress all the way through, like David Hay did because he was at York Hall, and Enzo Macronelli because he was at York Hall, and guys like Amir Khan, who was a superstar coming into boxing but started in small halls as well. If we can build them guys to a world level, but watch the journey, maybe if they can work the numbers out so that they're not over investing in small hall shows, and when the big one comes along, they can invest appropriately. Why can't we have a bit of both aims? Why's it got to be all or nothing? Why's it got to be a huge stacked card at Wembley Arena or nothing? And that seems to be a little bit what boxing has been for the last steadily 3 years. It's been a quite steady decline. I think even the last 8 months of Matchroom's contract with Sky was almost like a steady decline. And Boxer had a go. They've pitched, but they've been dropping in the last 3 years. And I just think a boxing fan, me and you, Justin, Matty, the guys in our chat, the guys listening to this show now, and the guys that listen to Seconds Out, the people that listen to all these podcasts, we'd love a British title fight twice a month. We'd love a Commonwealth title fight. We'd love one of our kids fighting in Italian, like Dan Aziz did, going out to France or boxing for a European title. Why does it always have to be feast or famine? Why has it got to be nothing or a huge stadium event?
I think a lot of it is the digital age, though, Des. I think boxing hasn't struck enough of a chord that resonates.
Yeah, that's true.
You're competing with. Take a look at any. So I do this myself before I go to bed. I find myself scrolling, and when you're scrolling, your brain is competing or trying to find that bit of interest, and everything that you're scrolling through is competing for that moment. And boxing isn't grabbing you enough of the time. And whilst I do think we're in a down period, you took Eddie, as much as Eddie will want to push the element of how great he is, and don't get me wrong, he's a fantastic promoter, but I think he's admitted as much, you have to have that little bit of luck. And Eddie had that little bit of luck of right place, right time, sure, and he made some great moves as well too, but he capitalize on when something's hot, you run with it and you hammer it as much as possible. And he got a little bit lucky with Groves and Froch and Groves, sorry. But he ran with that and he got that back in, and that was like the ascension back up with the interest that created a new generation of boxing fans, and he was able to move that momentum into Anthony Joshua, who, again, it helps that he's a huge, good-looking, good boxer, good talker, and a heavyweight as well. And from London or just outside London, Watford, and resonates with a lot of people. That all helps, and that was pushed and pushed and pushed. And if you look at Boxer, it's a different scale, but for example, you had Taylor and Catchall, massive controversy, huge controversy. Everyone was talking about it. I can't quite remember what it was like on Sky Sports or whatever it was, but I remember the feeling of this is a moment, this is a talking point, this is akin to, or as close as we've been to on these shores of Froch versus Groves. And instead of getting that rematch again, it got done 2 years down the line, and you've missed on that moment that you had where it's captured people, at the moment where it's people are on their phones and they're talking about it, people are interested about it, people are wanting to see some sort of resolution from it. And knockouts don't do it enough because everyone's seen a knockout now. Everyone's seen the craziest knockouts. Everyone has access to this knockout from the 80s, which left someone folded. Everyone needs a moment. Everyone needs a person to follow. A lot of people. This is the other thing. So promotion these days, I think, is missed as for the point of creating a story or a narrative around your fighter. Because if you look at what younger generation are watching these days, they're on YouTube a lot, but they're following people, they're watching people's lives, they like people. So it's I showed speed fella. You're probably thinking like this guy isn't talented, this guy isn't whatever. But whatever it is, he's been able to create an audience or create a following because he's created viral clips or viral moments, and people want to see whatever he does next. what promotional outfit are pushing their fighters in that sort of way to create those moments for their fighters, to create interest around their fighters in this day and age? And I don't think that's been done enough. I think Eddie does it well for himself. I think he's done fantastic for that. The local lad, the local humble kind of thing, that always sells, that always does well. But how far does that go? How do you turn a ticket seller in Plymouth that sells 1,000 tickets and make him a national treasure where everyone from up and down the country wants to go see him? That's not being figured out. Why am I interested in this prospect coming up from the Olympics as opposed to the next prospect coming from the Olympics who's out 2 weeks later? What's the difference between the two of them? Steve Wellings always says, like, these fighters, they all kind of mesh into one until they get there, don't they? But at that level, before that, if you're a fighter looking for opportunities, looking to push yourself, what are you doing as well to create something of yourself, create a characterization? That's why there's always been that case of you're able to talk yourself into a fight as well. But I don't think enough of that has been done. I don't think enough of the promotional games carried into the digital age. And I think that's been a big problem.
I think part of the issue with the venue thing, and this is kind of a different argument, is that not only fighter purses have gotten out of hand, but just the cost of labor has gone up so much, basically everywhere in the Western world. And I think when they're trying to look at what they need to break even or get a profit out of these events, I think they're setting a very high bar, and they find themselves trying to pull it back and just try to keep the losses from being too high. I think that, a lot of these events, I think have to be losing money. That's just my hunch. Yeah, anyways, let's see here. We're still working that card there. What the heck there was an interesting one on there that I thought might have been an interesting outcome. Let's see here. Yeah, there you go. Hey, Des, did you see Mark Jeffers losing a majority decision to Sean Hemphill? Obviously a bit of an upset there. Jeffers, not hugely hyped, but he was undefeated going in there.
Matty, I only watched. I was so much boxing on last night, and I'm sort of spinning plates. The only thing I managed to catch this morning was Simpson and the Italian kid Zuko. So I never see Jeffers, but I heard about it. Oh wait, Hemphill was a decent fighter, coming in with a decent record, and from what I read, Jeffers just switched off a little bit, but I never see it. Maybe Amy saw it or Justin saw it.
I didn't see it, dude. Like I said, just backstage trying to get a few bits and bobs, so I wasn't able to catch that one.
No worries. Justin, I know you crammed a lot in.
I got most of that fight. Round 10 was really good. Yep, I did.
You Brits should be ashamed of yourselves. Justin went to see a fight, drove back home, and still found a
I did.
Fight.
Big up, Justin.
Fucking shame.
Well, what I did was I'm going to watch the co and then the main because I'm not going to watch.
That's what I do too. Yeah, that's what I'll do.
Especially, but I think the fight, if you want to go back and watch round 10, was a damn good round. They were absolutely going to war in round 10. That was for me, that was one of the rounds of the year. That was a great round. The fight was a good scrap. I mean, like I said, I've heard of Jeffers. I've heard of him. I've watched him fight a couple of times. I've seen Hemphill like once. It was, I think the cards were close. I think it was like 95 on one. I think Hemphill won by one round on another one. It was a good fight. But round 10, if you just want to go back and watch round 10, that sums up most of the fight. It was a really good round. And Jeffers, he's what can you say? He's undefeated, yeah, but you don't have to be world level to be an entertaining fighter. I think he had a stupid ass haircut. He had the blonde, dyed his hair blonde. I don't think I've ever seen him with his hair blonde like that before. He kind of stood out. But it was a good fight. the round 10 was really good. I enjoyed that part of it. That was exciting. The crowd really got into it, which worked out because if you were there, that round put you right into the really good Simpson fight. So the crowd got their money's worth. No doubt about that.
You know, they might just make a rematch of something like that. You know, guy going in 18-2. You know, it's not like he had a whole bunch of paths after that. There's, you know, obviously more openings, but that's definitely something they could probably schedule another one for, especially if it was an entertaining affair. So, right on. Justin.
I will say this. I get to watch a lot of boxing because I don't have any kids. I don't have a girlfriend right now, and my job allows me to have a lot of free time that a lot of people don't get. And I probably have a sickness. I think my boxing, you know, people are addicted. You know, I don't drink. I don't do a lot of different things, but I think boxing might be my actual addiction. I'll never forget. This is not a side story, but my dad one day, this was like 2 years ago, we were sitting there and he went, "Can I talk to you about something?" I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" He was like, "Do you have an issue?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He was like, "Look at all your boxing collectibles." He said, "All you think about is boxing." He said, "We need to discuss this." I said, "Dad, you're acting like I'm a damn crackhead." I was like, I just enjoy I just really like boxing. I said, it's not an addiction. I just enjoy. I enjoy it. I love it. I cannot help it. When it's been since I was a kid, I love it. I've gotten to the point now where I don't watch 11 undercard fights. I kind of I'll maybe skim through like the 4-round prospect making his debut. I don't really see the need to watch that. But yeah, I definitely watch as much as possible. I mean, I still sit there. I can't help it. Like if I'm on the road in a hotel room, I'm done at 2:30 every day. I'm not going to lie. My job is mentally sucks because I'm dealing with 200 kids a day. But once I'm done at 2:33, I'm done in a hotel room. I got a lot of free damn time. I go down rabbit holes and I'm a junkie. I can't help it. I enjoy it. I always have. If I don't have any vices, I guess this would be my one vice then because I can't get away from it. I love it. It's always been a part of me. I enjoy the good and the bad. Like last night, there was a lot of bad because how people conduct themselves and how the boxers did their shit. But hey, boxing's one of these.
What else would you rather be doing?
Boxing's one of these sports. When you're as deep as we all are now, you know what it is. I don't get upset about it. I don't get frustrated. I know what I'm getting into. I know what I signed up for. If I'm sitting there, if that's my life on a Wednesday afternoon watching some dude from like Kyrgyzstan fight some random ass guy from Armenia on some Russian card, hey, that's life. It is what it is by now.
That's entertainment, damn it.
The life I've chosen. That's where I'm at.
That's fucking hilarious. No, yeah, you have a good time. You watch a fair bit of niche sports. If I could describe your life, it would be ESPN 8, the Ocho.
Hey, I just got back. We're going to a cricket match.
Fuck yeah. I still don't understand that sport for shit, but right on.
My God,
so boring.
They actually have professional cricket right up the road from me, which is crazy as hell. We don't get boxing, but we get freaking. We have a extremely large Asian community in Raleigh, the capital. I mean, extremely large, and cricket is everywhere. Like the USA team comes, they played like I watched them play Jordan at this little park outside of Raleigh. I mean, yeah, it is not. I think Ames just said it. Cricket is not for. It's not for everybody. It's funny. I watch every sport, but I don't watch the WNBA. And I don't watch French-on Cruz. We could break that down if you want to. That was a horrible fight. The French-on Cruz deserved. I think we'll probably go to Wardley. The DAZN fight was god awful.
We'll go with that one, and then we'll go to the main event. And unfortunately, I didn't catch the upset that was on there, but this was a god awful fight. And I say as someone who has been quite supportive of French-on Cruz DAZN in the past, but she did not deserve. Number one, the decision was awful. She did not deserve to win this fight. How two of the judges managed to score it for her.
It looked like a fight you would see at a Walmart in the parking lot. It was they looked like DAZN looked like she'd never been in a boxing match before. She was just running in like an animal. It was just so awful. And if that is not the fight, if you're trying to push women boxing, you sure as hell do not say that fight, because they look like they've never boxed before. The other girl had that other girl come out with something like a turtleneck thing wrapped around her neck. I've never seen anybody fight with something wrapped around their neck. You remember, though, Hector Camacho would wear that thing wrapped around his neck when he would come out with his little outfit on? Well, she just fought with it on. I thought that was the stupidest shit I've ever seen. And yeah, I watched about 2 rounds of that, and I said, you know what, screw this. I said, I got to get up, and I said, I'm not messing with this no more. But that was ugly. God, that was horrible. And so that's definitely not a advertisement for women's boxing, because I admit I don't watch it, but there are skilled women's boxers that are entertaining, like Fondora's sister. I don't remember her name now. Gabriella. And she's entertaining because she actually knocks people out. But that was
well, awful. Yeah. I mean, if like whoever can watch one of either of the Katie Taylor or Amanda Serrano fights and not be thoroughly entertained, like I don't know what the fuck you want out of life, man. Like those were great fights. I don't give a fuck. Yeah. But yeah, this was not a great fight at all. I don't know where the hell Ames left to. Let's see here. We got also on that card. Let's see here. We had Brandon Moore and Stanley Wright. This is kind of an interesting heavyweight fight, but Moore got cut in a head clash, and they called it after 5 rounds, just as it seemed like Wright was coming on after getting dropped in the 3rd round with a series of right hands. It was a right, left combination, but none of the left hands landed. But it was an interesting enough fight. I enjoyed it, and I don't know, like, if either guy necessarily goes much further than this, Justin, but it was fun. It was fun enough while it lasted, even if awkward at times. And I kind of wish it had gone further, because I don't think it was any guarantee that Moore would have gotten to the last round. I kind of like what Wright was doing.
I like the guy. Was it Wright that was dressed like Miller, or was it Moore that was dressed like Miller? Looked just like him. Which one was it? Who was the big fat one? Who was the huge guy with the?
Stanley Wright was the fatter one. He was shorter, but he was fat.
Yeah, but he was the clone of Miller. They looked the exact same. Both. He was just.
I have to go back and look at that.
Yeah, look at him. He was huge. Like he wore the same trunks. He looked like Miller if you just initially glanced at it. But yeah, that was. I don't know. I don't even know how that became a main event. That was in New York, right? Those cards, they really produce random card. I mean, they're sometimes entertaining, but I don't know where they just grab different. That was where what was his face? The Hebrew Hammer. That was always where he fought like every week.
God damn it! Why can't I remember his fucking name for the
life? I just know he was the Hebrew Hammer. I can't remember his name right off hand, but that's where he fought like in Corona, like every other week. What was his? I can't remember his name. I just remember
Cletus Selden.
Yeah, Cletus Selden. That was his home. That was his home base where he fought every damn fight. But those are. Yeah, you're right. Those heavyweight guys, that was a weird main event. That was basically 2 journeyman type guys in a main event.
But, they only had 1 loss between them going into the ring.
Yeah, but they're not. They're just going to be. You're going to end up seeing them like on the zone undercard as a opponent for like an Atoma type guy or something. That's where they're going next.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't see either of these guys going to the top at any point in time here. But could be entertaining along the way, depending on how they're matched. But let's see here. Ryan Deal throwing in 5 of them New Zealand dollars. Upset on there was Joseph Hicks losing to Wendy Toussaint. Didn't actually see that fight, but definitely an upset. Joshua James Pagan, decent-looking prospect. He got a win over James Bernardin, and it's pronounced Pagan, not Pagan. So, next time you find out that, someone's practicing an alternative religion, maybe they're not pagan, maybe they're pagans. But anyhow, I believe that takes us over, and we'll bookend with what might be the most interesting fight for our British listeners in there, and that would be Fabio Wardley, definitely down on the cards, getting beaten to the punch, outboxed, and then outmanned as the rounds wore on against Justice Hooney until he unleashed a hard, perfect peach of a punch right on the chin of Hooney, dropped him, and it appeared Hooney was up before the count. The referee waved it off. Hooney is yelling that it was potentially an early stoppage. I don't necessarily argue against that. I don't know. It wasn't the ref. But I will say, Des, that was an incredible shot that Wardley threw that pulled him just out of the flames of defeat there, and it definitely would caught you off guard there for sure, because I don't think he was doing very well, especially in those later rounds, and that was as perfect of a shot as he could have ever expected to throw, and he's done it more than once in his career now.
Yeah, did Hooney complain about the stoppage? I've not seen that.
Yes, he is formally complaining.
Well, it was a quick count, or he should have been given more time.
Yep, yeah, it was a quick count. Not only why it was a quick count, but that he believes that he was up by 9-2 on top of that being a quick count.
Yeah, the only thing I'd say to that is, I watched the count. I thought it was quick, but when Hooney got to his feet and the referee waved it off, the referee then put his arms around Hooney. Hooney didn't protest. He didn't pull a face. He didn't push the referee away. Then after the fight, when asked to talk, Hooney said, no, he'd done a brilliant job, and talk about Fabio, done a brilliant job, and he's a great fighter, and he's done what you're meant to do. And I always look at fighters in that space. I don't mean in a couple of hours when they've recovered and they've got their senses back. In that space in the ring, he was quite happy with the stoppage. I didn't see him protest. I didn't see him push back against the decision. And when he was interviewed, he was very, very magnanimous towards Fabio and how hard he'd fought and what a good punch it was. So I'm surprised he said that now. I can only think that having time to reflect, and you might correct me, you might say, no, it was immediately after the fight. But I can only think, having time to reflect, they've jumped on this to force a rematch perhaps. But in the ring at the time, he never protested at all.
He seemed relatively amicable with when they were talking.
He understood it, and you have to accept that referees are very, very close to him. I mean, he's 8 or 9 inches away, eye to eye, and he might have looked in Hooney's eyes and seen a glazed, vacant look, and thought, no, that's enough. I did think it was a fast count, and I did think it was a quick, wave. The referee never walked him to the neutral corner, had to talk to him. He called it off immediately. But you have to give referees credit, and you have to give them the respect they deserve and the responsibility they've got. He was closest to the kid, and he looked him in the eye. And to repeat myself, Hooney never complained or protested at all. So in that ring, so that tells me something about the fighter. Fighters always let you know how they feel about a decision. And looking at Hooney last night, he was quite accepting of that decision.
Yeah, and sometimes you're in the moment and you don't have it. You're still like the adrenaline's going, and sometimes you go right or wrong. Like the one thing I will say in his defense, like as I watched it, I'm like, man, the ref really seemed like he jumped on that count. Just me watching it, and then I always have concerns about a ref when they hit 9 and the fighter is clearly they're moving upwards. And they wave it while they're standing. It's like basically like between the rush and that, it's like he wanted a particular outcome. And I know that's a little bit what would be the word I'm looking for? A little bit dark of me to say like leaning into that, but like, I don't know. It just seemed like a little bit of a rush count as I was watching it. Like, and then,
but we're a society of conspiracy theorists, aren't we?
That's true.
Every single week, a football referee and VAR are against a certain team, and now we're creeping it into boxing. I do agree it was a fast count, but it doesn't mean the referee's corrupt. It just means he's caught in the moment and he's giving him a fast count. And he did wave it off quick, but we're not looking into the kid's eyes. But I always go back to it. Fighters will let you know. Fighters know. And after that fight, when the referee called it, waved his hands, put his arms around the kid, he never protested at all. And when they brought him in for the interview, he was very, very magnanimous towards Wardley. Now, I'm not saying
it made me think of Malik Scott against Derek Chisora. Both
very. It was so
the way that they handled it, and
But I'm not saying 2 or 3 hours later, the manager's not said, have a right, kick up a stink, moan. Let's get the return. We might get another one out of this. I'm not saying that conversation happened either, but I can only go by what I saw. Yes, I thought it was a fast count, but it wasn't a conspiracy theory. It's not bent. And yes, Hooney was very, very accepting of the decision.
Mr. Yimmy Yappy, the extreme finger of Foxes, and Mr. Captain Casual both believed that Wardley, to some degree, been exposed in that fight. But, people said that about Wilder for years and years, and he kept uncorking his own right hand and demolishing people after, losing every second of whatever fight somebody might have seen or whatever ridiculous moment that he experienced. Well, what do you think, Justin? Is this further proof of a Wardley ceiling, or is this that it's limited, or is this further proof of a Wardley ceiling, yet seeing what its limitations are based on his ability to pull fights out of the fire?
This is not Wardley got exposed. This is what we said last week and what we've said forever. This is what Wardley is. We have his expectations have gone up just because he's pulled some stuff out and he's beat people that he wasn't supposed to beat. But this is what Wardley is. Hooney was an Olympian. He's a pretty talented guy. Wardley pulled it out with an incredible shot, but I love Wardley. He has become one of my favorite guys to watch because you know what you get with him. He's a guy that is maxing out his potential of what he can really do. He was never even supposed to get this far. We just need to enjoy the ride. I enjoy all his fights. You know that every fight he's in is going to be a war, that he might pull something out, but he's vulnerable, so he could get knocked out. These are the guys that I love, the guys that you just know something's going to happen. I don't think for you to say he was exposed would lean more toward you have higher expectations or you think Wardley is more than his parts. He's not. Wardley is a above average fighter, maybe just average, but he is making the most of his ability. There's not many guys in boxing right now that are getting everything out of his talent level. Everything he has, every drop of ability, he is getting out of it right now. He is just maxing his potential, and that's awesome because he's going to be in great fights. Is he going to get completely knocked out one fight? Yes. This is heavyweights, and it's coming. He's not going to be able to keep digging deep like this. I mean, he had to dig deep in the Frazier fight, the first one. He had to really dig deep because Hooney was winning this fight. Hooney was ahead. Hooney was outboxing him. He was getting the ring where he wanted it. He was doing what he wanted to do. He just lunged in, and Wardley caught him, and that was just a great shot because Hooney's momentum was pushing him into the shot. If you know what I'm trying to say, like he was falling into the shot. It was a perfect shot. I think that we just need to enjoy the ride with Wardley. His whole career is going to be entertaining, regardless of who he fights. I'm on board. I have no expectations. I don't think, he's a world champion. I just enjoy getting him out there, seeing what he can do. Hooney, I agree with Dez 100%. I look at the fighter, and if after the fight's over with in the ring, if they don't bitch, they're the one that got laid out. They're the one that it happened to. I don't give a damn what your corner says. I don't care what your manager says. You're the one that happened to you. You physically were the one that got hit. If you don't get up and lose your mind and bitch and scream,
be like Zab Judah and choke the ref.
That means you're fine with it. That means hey, I was knocked out pretty much. Maybe I got up, maybe I didn't. Was it a fast count? I mean, yes, it was a fast count. But I mean, man, you got it. Look at the ref's point of view. You got knocked down. I mean, hard. And people make mistakes, and it's just boxing. It's life. Will Hooney get another good fight? Yes, Hooney is a heavyweight. We all get knocked out. Every heavyweight gets knocked out. Every heavyweight gets stopped or gets hurt. That's just the name of the game because of who you're fighting. Hooney will be back. He showed me a little bit more than I thought because I've never been impressed with Hooney. I've watched him fight 3 or 4 times. He just never looked like he had a lot to him, but he showed a little bit last night, albeit versus another guy of the same level. That's why the fight was decent, because they're both pretty much the same level. They're not going to beat the Joseph Parkers of the world. They're not going to beat those guys. But who cares? Who gives a shit? Crowd was into it. It was a cool fight. Wardley's he seems like a really nice guy, a good guy to get behind. Enjoy the ride, because guys like this don't come along every day. Heavyweights that are going to entertain, especially entertain. Look at the early 2000s heavyweights. I love Klitschko, but look at the guys he were fighting. If you get a heavyweight that's willing to throw bombs, who's going to stand in there, who's going to fight, go out on his shield literally every time, enjoy it. Because those guys, that's why I'm here for boxing. I love these guys. My favorite fighter of all time is Terry Norris, because every damn fight he was in, you were like, either he's going to knock that guy out or he's going to get completely knocked into the third row. Those are the enjoyable fights. That's why we like the Gottis. And Wardley is like I wouldn't say he's a Gotti type guy, but you don't say he's that kind of guy. Like, he's going to get hurt. He's going to hurt the other guy. I loved it. I enjoyed that fight. I was sitting there. I had 2 guys behind me. They were watching it on my phone together. They were into it. They got excited. They got excited when the knockout happened. It was entertaining. I enjoyed it, and I'm just here for the ride. I will watch Wardley every single fight he's in. I don't care if he loses 5 in a row. I'll be there watching them all, because the man is going to bring it, and he's honest. He's an honest pro who doesn't cut corners. You can tell. I mean, for him to be able to land that shot and still be going in the 10th round, I mean, I enjoy it. I'm on board the Wardley train. He is a guy I will definitely enjoy. I definitely enjoy it.
That's a good assessment. Yeah, he's an enjoyable fighter for sure. You gotta love, like, and that's, I mean, it's heavyweight boxing in general, but specifically certain fighters. And I don't think he has the power of a Deontay Wilder, but it's the metaphorical, like, 12-run home run. Like, it doesn't really exist any place other than, like, boxing and MMA. I think you also have to say that it does, but to be, mathematically out of a fight or out of any contest, and be able to pull it out like that, it's, basically exists only in this sport and a handful of other fight sports.
Yeah, I think with this one, Matty, I think we've got to enjoy the contrasting styles, and I don't think we should hang Wardley out to dry because he was behind on the cards, and quite significantly. That does happen in boxing. Nigel Benn, Anthony Logan, when Tim Witherspoon and Bone Crusher both turned over Frank Bruno, they was behind on the cards. Like, this does happen. Fighters can be behind and then pull out a punch like that. Julian Jackson was being stood on his head by Errol Graham, and then Errol caught one of Julian, and last night was pretty much straight out the Errol Graham playbook. No disrespect to Errol. I think with Hooney, and look, we've got guys in our Nutters chat that are from that part of the world and are quite averse with Justice Hooney. They said for the last 5-6 weeks, this is a hard fight. This is a harder fight than Gerald Miller. I didn't see it that way. Dr. FMG said to me last night, he really fancies Hooney in this one. And when I watched the first 8 rounds, I was going to send Fergal a message and say, yeah, you called that one spot on, mate. Because Hooney was a really good judge of distance. He understood subtle steps and little angles. And he knew how to throw very subtle, simple punches in the pocket. And he reminded me a little bit of Caballero at times. He worked really well in close without looking like he was working hard. And his educated pressure definitely caught Wardley out. Wardley not used to that. And it was the best opponent Wardley's ever faced. And Wardley last night had to walk through fire. Now, this is where we shouldn't be too snobbish in boxing, because walking through fire and being a tough guy and durable and determined, and now had to find the right punch last third of the fight, well, that has a huge value in boxing. Let's not forget, boxing is about tough guys. If you can stop a kid, you've got something. If you can stop a kid second half of a fight, you really have got something. But if you can stop a kid in the second half of a fight when you've been bashed up all night, Well, that's something no one can coach. That's a gift. And Fabio's got that. So, yes, he was losing the fight. And yes, I thought he was going to get beat. But he did what good fighters have to do. He found a way. And you have to respect that with Fabio. Now, look, Hooney's a good fighter. And please God, he goes on and has a career because I enjoyed watching him last night. But to bring it back to Fabio, I think what you've got to do with him is just tweak him. Don't try and make Fabio, on the back of last night, don't try and turn him into Alexander Usyk. He's never going to be that. They did this with Anthony Joshua when he got beat in New York. They got into his head and tried to 180 him. And they'd have been better off. An older head like a Denny Mancini or a Mickey Duff would have said, it happens. That does happen. So better fighters than you have been beaten. So
it was an entirely different mentality than Lennox Lewis, and it's ridiculous because the people around Lennox understood what heavyweight boxing is. Why these guys don't is ridiculous. Lennox Lewis goes and gets knocked out, and what do they tell him? They said, "Okay, we're going for a rematch, and you know what we want you to do? Go in there and knock that motherfucker out." And what did he do? Went in there and he knocked the motherfucker out.
They should have said the same to Anthony Joshua. They should have said, we'll bring him back to London and you'll stop him and get your belts back. But what they did, they got into his head and they tried to convert him. And Anthony Joshua, the kid that got beat, is better than the kid they turned him into. Because the kid they've turned him into doesn't know whether his arsehole is fried or boiled. He don't know whether he's a lion or an antelope. They should have said, just tweak it. Let's just tighten you up a bit. And that's what I would do with Fabio Wardley. I would just tighten him up now. I'd ask him to say, look, sometimes when you're in the mixer and there's an exchange, you haven't got to win every exchange. You haven't even got to be there. Sometimes if the other guy's angles are right and his feet are good, just step back, have a little walk and go again. Frustrate people. You don't have to be the guy that's always in the mixer having the exchanges, because sometimes you're going to be on the wrong side of exchanges. So I'd tweak him up there. I'd also just tighten him up a little bit so that when he's in the mixer, he's not copping unnecessary punches, because last night he copped a lot of unnecessary ones. But other than a little bit of tweaking, we're going to have a really good ride with Fabio. I think he's probably the most exciting fighter in the UK at the moment. He's someone we all want to come out and watch. Ames was talking about building a kid from Plymouth into a national star. This is not too dissimilar to that model. He's from Ipswich and he's now on the edge. He's now on the tip of everyone's tongue. Fabio's going to build a fan base very organically. He started locally and that's going to just mushroom out. I think he's a really exciting fighter to watch. I'm high on him. He's always bucking a trend. He's always proven us wrong and he's ripping up the playbook. So congratulations, Fabio Wardley. When the chips were down, when there was fire to be walked through, you did it. And that's what good fighters do.
Absolutely. And again, fair play to Hooney, who, his career, you want to give credit to guys who've never faced someone with a losing record. Well, that would be him. In fact, he has fought 6 fighters who were undefeated at the time, and 4 fighters who were only once defeated when he fought them too. And that's in 13 professional fights.
Matty, we've got football is the national sport over here, and there'll be a lot of guys in the chat. What I'm about to say will resonate with them. Women's football is on the rise, and I happen to be a friend of mine. He coaches at a reasonably high level for an under-14s girls team. And when a 13-year-old girl joins a team, they teach them all the skills and all the tricks, and they're trying to teach them to be Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo. And I said to the coach, why don't you teach them to be Terry Butcher? Why don't you teach them to be a good old-fashioned solid centre-half, to win their headers and win their tackles and give the ball simple? Because there's no one doing that in the girls' game. Simplicity, not complexity. I'd say the same for Fabio Wardley. If Ben Davison and Lee Wiley are listening, don't overcomplicate this with Fabio. Chin down, hands up, know when to exchange, know when to go for a walk, and use that right hand as much as you can, because the kid's a puncher. With Fabio, don't overcook it. Just tweak it. You're repointing a brick wall. You ain't building the house. Fabio's got a really good career in front of him. He's going to sell loads of tickets, and he's going to be the darling of a network because he's exciting. And I always judge it by your non-boxing fan. The non-boxing fan was talking about Fabio today, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, shots like that definitely capture the imagination of people outside of the sport of boxing. And some people in the chat say you should fight Chisora next, as far as Wardley goes, and then MB says Wardley's trajectory is upwards. Kabayel next, and go for the title. Man, I gotta tell you, Justin, if you think Wardley gets through Kabayel, I think you're insane. I think Kabayel is one of those guys that is very blatantly, purposefully, and transparently avoided by most of the heavyweight division.
Yeah, I wouldn't. That's a style matchup Wardley doesn't want. Kabayel can bang. He is a skilled boxer. I think, like Des said, the way Wardley's fighting right now, that's perfect for a Kabayel. That style would not be Wardley is tailor made for a Kabayel. Was just the way his slickness, and he's probably, I mean, of course, we're not counting Usyk, but you'd have to say just as far as boxing skill, Kabayel's top 5 in the heavyweights right now. Just his ability, the shots he can throw, the little things he can do. It's not a knock on Wardley, but everybody has a style matchup you don't want to go against, and he's all wrong. Like Emmanuel Storer said, he's all wrong for us. That is not the guy. That's not a fight I would be looking to make at all.
Yeah, let's see here. Teddy Boy 94 said Kabayel straight down the pipe stops him, Wardley too wide. Well, and I think the problem with a guy like Kabayel, and fair play to Wardley, I think what he did on last night that was underrated, while people thought that Hooney was just kicking the shit out of him, was I thought his body attack was actually reasonably underrated. Well, Hooney was doing most of his work upstairs, but guys like Kabayel, he's just a particularly vicious body puncher. Look what he did to Zhang. I mean, he just beat up his organs until Zhang didn't want to get up anymore. It's nothing that I think that I would like. I think that
Zhang and Wardley would be an interesting fight.
Yeah, it would.
That would be a war. That would be a good fight. I mean, it's a fight,
especially with the fact that Wardley can punch late. You know,
it's
like if he can just survive, he'll get him.
And we know Zhang, he's got about 3 good rounds in him, and that's about all he's got. So that would be a guy that, if you want Wardley to have a name and a guy that he can look good against, but a name, Zhang would be the kind of guy that you would look at, because especially at this point of his career, Zhang, I think we saw the highlight of Zhang. I think beating the Juggernaut was his pinnacle of his career. I don't think he'll reach anything higher than that. But yeah, if Zhang wants to go Wardley, that would be a good guy to put him in against. A guy that has risk, has a name, but Wardley should have enough, especially if he gets through 2 or 3 rounds. I don't see where Zhang would have anything left, because Zhang, the man is the perfect, like, Iron Man. Was it like those West Virginia Tough Man contest? He can get 4 rounds, he's good. Like the Butterbean, the old Butterbeans 4-rounders. That's what Zhang's at right now. He can give you that, and he's dangerous. Zhang's dangerous anybody in the world, but after that, he just doesn't have it. He just cannot take it. So honestly, that would probably be the guy I would look at for Wardley, a Zhang type guy.
Yeah, that could be fun. Yeah, that could be a fun one. And that could be a fight that they could probably take outside of the UK and get him some, some of that super duper Saudi money over there.
But I think, Matty, while we've got a natural organic ticket seller, you don't have to overmatch him now. Like, he's had 3 fights in the last calendar year, in the last 12 months, sorry, and 2 of them have been really hard fights. Don't forget all the sparring they do. I think you could bring him back to Portman Road, and you haven't got to bring in a A-star opponent now. You can start getting Fabio to enjoy this boxing thing. You can say, look, you're at a good level now. Now, everyone you fight in the upper echelons of heavyweight boxing will have been to a major championship in the amateurs. They're all going to have been to the World Games or the Pan Americans or the Olympics. In some cases, 2 out of 3, even 3 out of 3. So they're all at that now. But Fabio's been beating them guys. You know, he beat Simon Vallely, Commonwealth gold medalist. He beat David Adelaide, ABA national champion on the GB squad. He's beaten Fraser Clark. Now he's beaten Hooney. We've got to put the whole white collar shtick out of it now. Fabio's here because he's earned the right to be here. He's
just a
kid.
boxer.
He can fight. He can punch. He's a fighter and he can punch. And I've seen loads of kids come out of these elite institutions of sport that can't do those things. So I think Fabio Wardley has to stop talking about his white collar background and stop it, letting him hold him back a bit. Personally, I think you could put him against anyone in Portman Road now, and I think everyone would watch him because he's an exciting fighter, he's a good talker, and he delivers. And when I say anyone, I mean you could bring over a Wilder, you could bring in a Chisora, or if you want a bit more adventurous, bring in a Jagba, or I'd even put him in there against Hrgovic. After 4 rounds, Hrgovic does not want to be in the same ring as Fabio Wardley. Any of them fights, I'd fancy Fabio in.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, we'll see where.
Just on the last point of
Go
that,
ahead.
Matty, when you've got a ticket seller, when you've got someone that the network really enjoys showcasing, when you've got a kid that non-boxing fans are excited to talk about, don't have him get beat. Keep him in exciting fights, but have 2 that he can win, and then like a crescendo. Let's see how he sort of gets on in a big one. So you could effectively say, let's bring in a Chisora for the fun of it. He deserves that. Let's bring in a Jagba or a Hrgovic, and then we'll try and get him in with Joe Parker. But we're gonna get 12 months out of this. Not get him clipped in the next one. I think when you've got an organic ticket seller like this that's really good for boxing, and nothing about Fabio is bad for boxing, let's keep it going a bit.
Shannon Briggs is coming back July 1st, so he's coming to Nashville, so that'd be an opponent they want to bring in.
All right, Justin, you said Shannon Briggs, right? Tongue in cheek, but you'd fancy Fabio against Sanchez, and you'd fancy Fabio against Anderson, wouldn't you? They're two good names you could bring over.
Well, I think I've said this for years. I never thought Anderson was going to do anything. I just never thought that, and I was right. You're right. Frank Sanchez, you know what he is now. Wardley, I think, is just punches harder than Sanchez. I think he's going to be more active than a Sanchez will be. Sanchez is not an exciting guy. A Jagba, that would be a good fight because Jagba showed in his last fight that he's decent. That would be a good level fight for him. There's like you, I'm like you. If he's selling out and you're making a lot of money and you kind of know what he is, the fans know what he is. They know he's not if you ask them to their face right now, most of his fans know we know he's not the number 1 heavyweight in the world and he's not going to beat an.
But he doesn't have to be.
No, he doesn't
have to be, does he? He don't have to be.
That's what That's what I said a minute ago. I like the ride. I'm enjoying the ride. I want to see him fight a Frank Sanchez, a Jagba, a Zhang. Those are the guys you want. And like, if he fought Chisora, they would make a killing off of that fight. An absolute, because Chisora still has they would make an absolute killing off of that fight over there. Y'all, that would sell
Chisora's reflexes might be dead, but his mouth sure isn't.
Yeah.
He
so
can sell
Wardley,
a fight.
So Chisora, that's the kind of fight you're looking for, Wardley.
For the next one, I totally agree. Yeah, and listen, it ain't a dog and pony show because Fabio shows up. Fabio fights with high intensity, good volume, and he's a puncher. So I think if you brought in a Chisora, don't forget Dillian White. Dillian White would be sniffing around because he's got some sort of management role there. It would be a great build up. Chisora would go down really well in Ipswich. The Fabio and Chisora fight. I'm not saying I want to see Derek Chisora in the ring again either. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, at this point, whether it's Sanchez, whether it's Anderson, whether it's a Chisora, whether it's a Wilder, Fabio sells.
Actually, you know what? I was thinking about it. If Wilder has always talked about coming to the UK, if he wins his Kansas City fight, which he should, that would be.
It's not even Kansas City, it's Wichita, Justin.
That would be the logical. That would be a very logical fight for Wardley because Wilder has the name. He's going to talk shit. It's going to have an air of maybe Wilder still has that punch. You know, Fabio. I mean, there's going to be something you can sell. There's
and he could claim he's getting revenge for Audley
Yeah.
Harrison because Wilder
So we-
has been there when he knocked
so we
out
can
Audley
sit
Harrison.
we can
around.
sit here. We've already named off. There's like 10 guys, 10 or 12 guys. They can have war like this. That you can fill his card for another 18 months of good fighters before.
You can.
But eventually he'll have to be. Eventually it's going to come. But why does it have to come? Like you know, why does it have to come now? Let's enjoy
Correct
what we're seeing. You don't have to always say, you know what? Oh, he won this fight, so he's got to go versus Cabell Parker next, or he's got to get the Dubois fight next, or something. Why? Why
Yeah,
does
let
he
him
have to-
grow. Yeah, don't throw him
why
in
does he
against
have to do that?
Abiel yet. Good God.
Yeah. The man's exciting, and he's just seems like a good dude, and just let it ride. I mean, there's no point, and they're all going to be good fights, and people are going to sell out. You're going to make a lot of money. And you're not protecting him. You know, you're not trying to shield him. We all know what he is. So the fans aren't being sold something. You know, it's not like I like the announcers last night to a point. I mean, people are not sitting there calling Wardley a future world champion. I love the fact that everybody's very realistic of what Wardley is and what he can do. Let it go. I just let it go.
Well, do you know something? You're spot on about that, because every fight last night, I felt the commentary team were trying to sell us beachfront properties in Birmingham. Like every fight, they was trying to convince us that this kid on his debut is an amazing talent, and this fella here who 2 weights out of his natural weight is really good, and the fella that's been sold to us as the best in the division, well, he's just having a look. But if Wardley, there was no having to sell him. It didn't have to pitch it, over pitch it. It was a case of this is who he is, and this is what we've got to enjoy. There was a real organic feel to Fabio Wardley. And if we could just stop talking about the white collar thing and his conventional way round the houses, if we could just enjoy Fabio for what he is. And he's the ticket seller. If he's fighting in 3 months, 4 months' time against Hergovic, Chisora, Wilder, Ajagba, it's Fabio Wardley that sells the 20,000 seats. It doesn't matter who he boxes now. He's an exciting fighter. He's a puncher. He knows how to get to you late. He's high volume. He's high energy. It's Fabio Wardley that sells these shows. Like Justin said, for the next 12 to 18 months, we don't have to overcook this. We don't have to complicate it. We don't have to overmatch him. We can really enjoy this ride. And in the meantime, Fabio might become better at what he's good at. And in 18 months' time, we might see Fabio fighting or clipping a Joe Parker, or fighting a version of Anthony Joshua or Tyson Fury. And you never know what can happen, especially in heavyweight boxing, over 18 months.
Oh, that's true. It's ever evolving, and Usyk could retire at any time. I mean, he's getting near 40, and it's not like he doesn't have enough shit to worry about, and he's made plenty of cash. That's for damn sure. But yeah, it's Fabio Wardley. Another one of them great punches, and there you go. He lives to fight another day, and but I think Justice
and Matty, just to be clear, because someone's not listening to what we're saying. No one's saying Fabio Wardley is the best in the world. We've said he hasn't got to be. He said he hasn't got to be. We've clearly said that. We said you've got to enjoy him for what he is. He's a high energy, high volume puncher that sells a ticket in that part of the world. And the people in the other part of the country are now talking about him. No one on this pod has said Fabio's the best in the division. Jesus wept. What we've said is he hasn't got to be at the moment. We can enjoy Fabio for what he is.
Yeah. And that's
you're right. We're not saying that he's, oh my God, he was so incredible last night and he's world level. And we said it. Hooney was putting it on him. I said it. Hooney was winning every round. But that's why you like watching the Wardley fights, because he's exciting. That's what we're saying. We're not taking away from Hooney. Hooney was putting it on him. And we know, and we've said this, I guess we've said this 20 times today. We know what Wardley is. We're not building him up to be a top 5 heavyweight. We're just saying he's fun to watch, and we want to watch him fight everybody because he's honest. You know what you're going to get. He's not going to come out there and stink it up. He's not going to not show up. I enjoy watching him. And guess what? It wasn't a Hail Mary. That was a pretty shot that he'd been trying to throw all fight, and Hooney walked right into it. It wasn't Gabe Rosado was a Hail Mary.
And let me ask you both another question. I'm throwing this out to everyone in the chat. I'm not talking about Anthony Joshua's body of work, and I'm not talking about the fighter he's been and all the things he's won. Today's version of Anthony Joshua against today's version of Fabio Wardley. Would you fancy? It's an interesting fight because would you fancy Anthony Joshua getting through the first 5 rounds and not getting tagged? And we know Anthony Joshua goes to bits when he gets tagged. We know he's not very good at walking through fire. We know he doesn't get up and turn fights around. And we know under pressure, he doesn't perform. In fact, he looks like a rank novice. So all I'm asking is, forget what AJ's done and where he's come from and how brilliant he's been, and forget the journey Wardley's had. Today's version of both kids, who would you fancy? And would you fancy Anthony Joshua to get through them first 5 rounds without getting tagged just once?
Well,
it makes an interesting fight, doesn't it?
Doesn't necessarily even matter if he makes it through the first 5, because I mean, look at the power that Wardley was carrying in the 10th when he in Europe Orleans looked absolutely knackered, right?
Now, I will say, I think Joshua would beat Wardley, but it would be an entertaining fight as long as it lasted. I think Joshua, I still lean Joshua to beat him, but what I'm thinking is,
yeah, we can't.
It would be a good fight. Like Wardley could beat Joshua. I think that's where Wardley's at now, and what we're saying is correct. Wardley could beat Joshua. That's because Joshua he's older, he's vulnerable. We know what he is. I still think Joshua would beat Wardley, but it would be an entertaining fight than people would think it would be. Like that's what we're saying. It's better than what people thought it would be.
And I don't want to
Justin, if I ask you,
I don't want to go dismissing Anthony Joshua's abilities either. Like, because then I think
I would bet Joshua.
Then you're dismissing like what Daniel Dubois did to him as well, right? Like, this is the guy who, like, for you call it for whatever it is. I mean, he absolutely obliterated Francis Ngannou after he took Tyson Fury 10, and who just absolutely obliterated Otto Wallin as well, which and people are like totally dismissive of Otto.
Well, that's another Wardley. That's a Wardley
I mean,
opponent. Wallin would be a good opponent for Wardley because Wallin's dropped so hard that would be an interesting fight.
Yeah, he needs a good W.
Yeah.
All right, we're allowed to ask the question. I mean, all mates talking. We're allowed to ask the question. So here's the question. AJ has not got any form of pedigree against a puncher. He don't like fighting them. Right? We've seen what he's like when he gets hit. I personally think Caballero is a nightmare for Anthony Joshua. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, Caballero is
right. But we was happy to put Joshua. We was happy to put Fabio with Caballero in the next one. That's what some people are saying. Give him into Caballero.
Caballera's an underrated guy that I don't think he still gets a lot of respect because he's a guy. People don't know about him. He's from he's not from a boxing nation. He's kind of he does his own thing. But if you just watch the man straight
Caballero's a brilliant player.
He's still earning people's respect because if you recall, Des, I couldn't quite sell you on the fact that he was going to beat the shit out of Zhilei Zhang. That was one of the ones where I was, more accurate than most because there's something about him. He's vicious. He's a great body puncher. He has a good volume. And if you look at the way he got up after getting knocked over by Zhang, like he can take a punch. He just got bowled over by a 7-pound, 300-pound monster.
But if you're going to put Fabio in a Caballero conversation, you've got to put Fabio in the Anthony Joshua conversation because I think Joshua will be in a more winnable fight for Fabio than the Caballero one.
Yes, I would not.
100%.
Yeah, I didn't agree. I can't remember who was talking.
We're not going to see that fight anyway because Josh was just waiting for the payday with Fury. He's not going to fight anybody like Wardley. He's not going to fight Caballero. It's not saying he can't beat him, but Josh was at the point in his career now is he don't need these guys. Like what is he going to gain from fighting a Wardley or Caballero? Joshua doesn't want that. He wants the money, and I can't blame him. He wants the money. He's going to wait and he's going to get the Fury fight. We all know that's going to happen. It might be 50 years old, but we all know that's going to happen. That's what Joshua is waiting on. They're just doing whatever they can because Fury's going to take it. Joshua's going to take it. It's going to sell out. It just is what it is. And like I said, last thing I'm going to say about Wardley is I know what he is. I've said this I'm like a broken record. We all know what he is. Why can't we just enjoy it for what it is?
Oh, we will.
I just enjoy it.
And then, and Matt, that's always sound on this pod. We really enjoy the Fabio Wardley. We're not overcooking this. We're not saying he beats Usyk. We're not saying he beats Dubois. We're not even talking about them guys. I'd never put him in with Caballero. He doesn't fight Anthony Joshua or Dillian White because he's connected with both of them. He trains with Anthony Joshua. He's got the same trainer, and he's managed by Dillian White. But we're just talking We're talking hypothetically. Fabio has come a very, very long way. He's top 10 in the world, and he's in the top 5 conversation purely because he's a puncher. And that gets you a long way in heavyweight boxing. That's all we're saying here. And I go back to it. With his intensity, with his volume, with his energy, and the way he can punch start to finish, he's a dangerous opponent for anyone, in my view, except the top 3, which is Usyk, Dubois, Fury. Anyone else, it will be a hard night for him.
Well, and Fury's retired at this point in time. I mean,
I'll put Caballero in that 3 as well.
I like that. That's an interesting change of events there. So.
Because he's a top kid that knows that really knows the sciences, and we've seen him outdo so many different styles of heavyweight. Fabio would not bring nothing that Caballero hasn't seen before. But what we're just saying here is Fabio, because of his motor skills and because of the lack of motor skills and because of what he brings in terms of intensity and energy levels and punch, he's a hard night's work for anyone outside the top 3 or 4.
Absolutely. And people would probably pay to see it. And that's how you make money in this sport. And also on the undercard, I tell you, this what ended up being a little bit more competitive fight than I think a lot of people thought, at least on the on some of the judges' scorecards. Liam Dillon and Pierce O'Leary. Dillon just refusing to succumb to Pierce O'Leary's power. Kept doing his business as best as he could. And at the end of the day, he made it the distance. Justin, did you catch this one? I believe this was the co-main.
No, I was actually driving. All I got to see was I got to watch the main event, but I didn't get to see anything else on that card. That's all it is. We were right in the middle, going in the middle of nowhere in Virginia when all that undercard was going on.
Yeah, no worries. Des, go ahead and take that one on what your thoughts on that fight.
I didn't like this fight going in because Liam Dillon's.
No, yeah, you did not.
No, I didn't like it. Liam Dillon spent his whole career down at Super Feather. O'Leary's a genuine light welter, and the size disparity was noticeable. Liam's not a puncher, going in 15-2-1 with only 3 stoppages. I've seen him get outclassed, outpunched by Bellotti and Garner, and I didn't like this one. I think they put him in for a European title fight so Pierce can win this European title and he can somehow knock on the door at world class. I think they could have done a bit better for Liam Dillon this one. However, last in the distance would have been a win for Liam, and he did that last night. He knew how to look after himself. He was taking a lot of punishment, and Pierce is a very good mid-range fighter. He likes a hook and an uppercut, and he was sometimes teeing off on Dillon. But I think Dillon's lack of punch and lack of pressure allowed O'Leary to wait a bit longer than what he should have done. And he was, at times, overthinking his work and maybe admiring his work. But it's a win for Pierce O'Leary. He's now the European champion. And let's see where Frank Warren can take him. I like Pierce. He's in great shape. He's an educated kid. He's a good mid-range fighter, like I said. But I want to see him step up now. He's going in at 16-0. He's got a decent crack on him as well, 9 stoppages. But we want to see Pierce get pushed on now. He's a good fighter, but he needs to be fighting better opposition, and we need to see more of him. Joe Burns made a point last night. So we've heard so much of Pierce, and now I've seen him. I'm not so sure of him. Pierce is a good fighter, but we have to see more of him.
All right, and let's see here. What else was on there? Oh, I caught this one. Mike Perez ended up knocking Stephen Ward around as the fight wore on, stopping him in the 9th. after Ward was down twice in the 8th. The Ward's corner finally said, we shouldn't do this anymore. So Ward's run, after being undefeated of going loss, win, continues with this loss. He will be 3-4 in his last 7 outings. I tell you what, but that's nothing to say against his opposition there, because, you know, I know there's other fights we'd like to see at cruiserweight, but Des, in a pinch, I'd still probably put Mike Perez in there with the best in the division and say he could at least be competitive as can be on the second tier of it all.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Lawrence Okoli's moved up, Riakpor's moved up. What we saw, you know, the kid they brought in for Opataya, the talent pool is quite rarefied down at cruiser. I think Mike Perez could do something, but we have to see him in a little bit better opposition before we can make that shout. Wardley was taking a huge jump, and I don't think he was ever going to win, but it was about how he lost and if he can find his way to the final bell. Before in the round he got stopped in, Ward, he took a good hiding off Perez. He was putting his hands together and getting his shots off. And class was starting to tell, and Perez was enjoying himself. And Martin Murray in the corner said to Wardley, I want to save you for another day. I don't see the point in you getting hurt. When you say stuff like that, you've got to call the kid. You've got to pull him out. You can't say that, then send him out, because you're going to switch it. I've never heard anything like it. You're switching a kid off. You're telling him all the reasons why he shouldn't go out. Then you send him out. If you're going to send a kid out, you say you've got 2 more minutes. You've got to go and give this kid the best 90 seconds of your life. Go and give him hell, and you have a look at it. But what you don't do, you don't tell him, I've got to save you for another day and I don't get to get hurt, and then let him go out there. So Martin Murray's got to learn a little bit about corner work. I was disappointed with that. But no surprises with the result. Perez has got a really good pedigree. He's a class act. How far he can go now at this age with his level of inactivity over the years. But he's in a good gym. He's with a half-decent trainer that can pick up the phone and talk to a lot of promoters. So we'll see where Mike Perez goes. Does he beat an Opataya? Does he beat a Billum Smith? Does he beat a Zerdo? I don't think so. But if you hang around long enough, you never know what comes your way.
Yeah, and he's definitely been hanging around long enough, that's for sure. I looking through the results of fights that I didn't see. Well, I did see Lewis Richardson against Dimitri Protkunas in the debut for a pro debut of the Olympian. But I'll tell you the one that stands out there for me, Des. I don't know if you caught this, but that Sam Gilly going to a draw with over 8 rounds with the 7-5 Gideon Onyinani. I can't say I saw that fight or I've ever seen Onyinani fight before. But that's a real sore thumb on a career of an 18-1 guy who was on a streak. Let's see, he's at least 6 wins straight. What the heck we got? Gilly had won. Foxrec will hurry up here. Gilly was on a winning streak of 1, 2, 3.
No, I never see it. I never see
4,
that
5,
one
6,
either, man.
7.
I was surprised by it, but I never see it.
Yeah, 7 fights since he lost to Danny Ball in 2021. Over 4 years going undefeated there, and then he this time still undefeated, but got that draw. I mean, and I'm guessing this guy's got a little bit of a what would you call it, a deceptive record. Let's see here. He's
yeah, that can happen.
Yeah, well, here you go. Here's the guys he's lost to, and it's tough to say because you got to see how far they've gone in their career. He's been a pro in less time than Gilly has been on that undefeated streak. But he lost to a 4-0 Billy Jackson, a 2-0 Hebert Conce Sal Sousa, a 3-0 Mark Dickinson, a 5-1 Bilal Fawaz, and 9-0 Jimmy Sainz. So, I mean, he's been in there with some decent operators, and he's got some win over, guys with 4-2 records, and then, some junk, but definitely a deceptive record. And all of his losses against people who, at least at the time looked, decent in their glossy record with there's O's sitting on there at least.
Well, we watched him against Jimmy Sains only recently, and he gave Jimmy Sains a lot to think about. I think Jimmy Sains, he'd been knocking everybody out. I think Jimmy Sains was 8-0 with 8 knockouts, but Gideon, he frustrated Sains, and he let Sains realise, when you throw, I'm either gonna avoid it and come back at you, or I'm gonna take it and come back at you, and that changed Sains' whole game plan. That was for the Southern Area belt. So yeah, you're right. His record doesn't tell the whole story, and that's easy to happen in boxing, especially down at that level. You can have a kid with a 7-6 or a 7-7 record. It doesn't tell the true story.
Yep. So yeah, maybe they'll rematch that or something, or maybe Gilly will just go an entirely different direction. But that had to be a little bit of an embarrassment for him and what he probably expected to be a tune-up fight. But what do you think about the pro debut of the Olympian Lewis Richardson? And then we'll probably have to close this out because we'll have to get some previews in. There's only one card I guess we'll hit, but we've been reviewing for 2.5 hours now.
Yeah, I'll be really quick with Lewis Richardson. It's his debut, so we're going to cut the kid some slack. But he's been in the gym for nearly a year. He knew this night was coming. And he looked to me like he was warming up on the bag. You know, it was all light flurries, up on your toes, bouncing around. There was one point where he hit the kid with a jab and then stepped back 2 paces, almost like, I've scored. That's all I've got to do. There's got a lot of adjustments to be made with Lewis Richardson. It looks to me like one of those kids coming off of that sports institution production line that's just not cut out for the pros. In fact, nothing about Lewis Richardson looks like a pro boxer to me. He had a very good amateur career, but I think we're looking at another Tom Stalker, another Anthony Ogogo, another Charlie Edwards, another Andrew Selby. I think it's one of them. He spent so long on that Olympic program, it's very hard to turn him into successful pro boxers. Please God, I'm wrong. I hope I am. But it's his debut, so we cut him some slack, but I didn't enjoy it. I can't imagine what the promoter said to him. Something along the lines of, you really need to start sitting down on your shots a little bit and holding your feet. And if you've got a kid like this in front of you, why don't you try different things? But he reverted to type. And again, I go back to it. When you've been part of an elite sports program, and you've been living it and breathing it for 4 or 5 years, it's very hard to change what comes natural to you. So I didn't think it was a very good debut, but let's see where it goes.
Yeah, fast hands, lots of touches will take you far on the amateur game. So that's hard to break that strategy up. So, especially when it can still win a lot of fights at the lower levels in the professionals. You're not going to be checked on that until you go up a little bit further for sure. But yeah,
Matty, our friend Damo reminded me, because I called out a few names there, and I should have said Delicious Ori. It was very similar to the debut of Delicious Ori. It's all feather duster stuff. He couldn't punch an hole in the snowman. So I don't know where you go in the pros with that mindset, that style.
Yeah, and Delicious Ori had decided to hang it up after one professional fight. But you know what? If you're going to decide that if you really, your heart's not in it, then yeah, go another direction. It's not a good thing to pursue as far as, getting punched in the face and for a living if you're really not into the whole process of it, because you'll get hurt, of course. But anyhow. So I'm just there's only one card we'll actually give an actual preview of, but I'll just say that there's some stuff to watch this coming week. Andrew Tabiti versus Jacob Dixon is going to be on DAZN live from Accra, Ghana. From Philadelphia, Leanna Cruz against Regina Chavez. I'm sure there's some men fights on there as well. Juan Francisco Estrada choosing to continue his career against Kareem Arce Lugo in Hermosillo, Mexico. And also Nonito Donaire choosing to continue his career for the interim WBA bantamweight title against Andres Campos from Buenos Aires. But let's just go ahead and talk about 2 fights from the card from New York City on Saturday. Andy Cruz against Hironori Mishiro and Richardson Hitchens against George Kambosos. I tell you what, Justin, this is Andy Cruz. It's going to be tough to call anything he's in more than a showcase fight until he's at the championship level, because the goods are so clearly on display in the ring.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. The title shot should be coming. I mean, he can't be more than a fight or two away. He could be getting one now, honestly, but he should win. He should beat this guy. I like Andy Cruz, he's one of these guys that you see it. Like, he doesn't have to have 15, 20 fights. He's ready now. There's no point of marinating and trying to just put him in and see what happens. I think it's got to be coming. I think if he maybe was at a different weight class, it already would have come, but we'll get him in there. I mean, I like him. And then I don't know if you want me to jump into Hitchens real quick, or you want to just keep talking about
go
Cruz.
for it.
This fight's probably going to be extremely boring. But I'm one of these people. Like, everybody loves action fighters. I mean, that just is what it is. But Hitchens, I like Hitchens. He's not, what he's going to do, but he's good at what he does. And I've said this 100 times. People try to disagree. Kambosos is not that great. He won the lottery by catching a mentally weak, undertrained Teo who was just not ready for that fight. He had the fight of his life. If he fights Teo 25 times, he'll lose 20. He'll lose 24 of those. He just got his one, and he cashed it in. And we keep seeing him. But Kambosos he's a level guy that he got lucky. He made it happen, and he's made so much money off of that win. But now Hitchens is just too good for him. There's no other way to put it. Hitchens does everything better than Kambosos does. He's going to box Kambosos' head off. He's not going to let him get inside. He's not going to let him do anything. It's going to be a 12-round decision. Kambosos is probably going to be sitting there beating his gloves and telling him to fight him in the middle of the ring. And we know what's going to happen. He's going to try to get Hitchens to engage. Hitchens is not going to engage him. Hitchens is a Secure Stevens type guy. It's going to happen. That's why I don't think the ticket sold that well, because I looked it up a few weeks ago. You could get, like, we're talking about near the ring for like $45-$50. They know what it is. It's that nobody's going to spend a lot of money because everybody knows what's going to happen. I will watch it because I do enjoy Hitchens' fight. He's just one of those guys. He's not as boring as the Spinks was, because I think Corey Spinks was one of the most awful. He was just awful. That is the last person you would ever tell anybody to go back and watch a Corey Spinks fight. That man was the most negative, awful fighter to watch. Hitchens is better than that, but he's like not a whole lot better level, not as far as just what he wants to do. Kambosos, at this point, I don't know what I guess he just likes the money. He just likes I think he likes the limelight. If you look at his Twitter account, I think he's one of these guys that's going to go for a long time because I think he just can't get away from it. I don't know. So Hitchens probably a 116, 111. I mean, it's 117, 118, 110 kind of thing. Hitchens should be a simple fight for him. Just a simple 1-2. He doesn't have to get fancy with anything because Kambosos is slow. Kambosos, I don't see any way Kambosos wins this fight unless Hitchens twists his ankle, gets cut. It's going to be one of those
by Thor Bjornsson in the chest.
Because Hitchens is just so much more skilled than Kambosos is, and I don't see it happening. I do not see any way Kambosos gets this win unless Hitchens just completely falls apart.
I think that's a very reasonable assessment. And and as I look through Cruz's opponent's resume, it's interesting. He had a pretty interesting CV going up through until COVID. And actually a little bit before that, they ended up trying to drop off his opposition a bit. Then he had a loss. I don't know what the heck might have happened there. But he had wins over a few undefeated guys in his first 5 fights. He fought Masayuki Ito, who was very, what would you say, seasoned fighter at that point in time. 12-1 Kimura. And then they really pulled him back. So interesting enough there. Cruz is definitely going to be a rough level for this guy. And even though he has never been stopped in his career, I don't know. Cuban Andy just might get this one, Des. And feel free also to comment on the 12-round contest of Ambien that we will know as George Kambosos against Richardson Hitchens.
Yeah, I'm a fan of both kids. I think Andy Cruz is a brilliant prospect down at lightweight. I think the kid they're bringing in isn't a puncher, although he's vastly more experienced. But you're not going to outbox Andy Cruz. It's an Andy Cruz win. A huge fan of Hitchens. Similar to Justin, we're a little bit, we're anoraks to this stuff. So I love to see people like Hitchens who are brilliant technicians who have very high level of skill set. Although it can put a glass eye to sleep at times, I really enjoy it, and I think he's got a strongness, a strength about him. I think he absolutely befuddles, Bermudez, and switches Kambosos off. It's a Hitchinson shutout for me. Unanimous decision.
Yeah, highly likely, I would imagine. So
if Kambosos can't lay a glove on Haney, he ain't getting nowhere near Hitchens.
No, and I tell you what, I think I'd like to just see Hitchens be more spiteful in there than Haney was. Haney almost got him out there. Yeah. It isn't.
It's not his nature. No.
And it's a shame because if he really wanted to make a splash, being able to say, like I stopped this guy that Haney let go 12, not once but twice. Lomachenko in his last fight of his career stopped this guy. He could talk a lot of shit to Haney and potentially make that New York battle.
Yeah, but it's all the stars do not align for this one because Hitchens is just a very, very good reactive fighter behind a very, very good long jab. He's very thick set, Hitchens, but he doesn't use his physicality, he uses his technicality. And Kambosos is, if he's anything, he's tough and dogged. So I don't think you're ever going to see that. I think Hitchens will figure him out very early, get behind the game plan, and realise this works. And I don't think Kambosos has got the motor skills. I don't think he understands the angles, and he's not got the feet to work it out. So it'll be quite one paced, straight lined, and it'll feed into everything Hitchens is good at. So it's a unanimous decision from me. I might be wrong. It's been known to be. I've been wrong sometimes.
Yeah, that would be most likely. And Tito Mercado's on there against someone as I scroll his resume. I believe he is cannon fodder. That would be Jonathan Montreal. He's fought Tiger Johnson and lost every round, and he lost by knockout in the first round to a guy named Greg Outlaw, who I swear I've seen before, because how do you forget a name like Greg Outlaw? But Des, I know you wanted to talk about a loss in the UK in the boxing world this past week, and then we'll get into something that was a developing story when we just started the show last week.
Yeah, very sadly, James Cook, he passed away yesterday. James Cook, MBE, former British champion, former European champion, be really sorely missed in this country, but particularly in the London borough of Hackney, where he was a brilliant community man running the Pedro Boxing Club on the infamous, what was known during the 80s and early 90s as the Murder Mile. It was a strip in running through the London borough of Hackney that went through the ward of Clapton, and it was known for gang-related activity. It was a lot of gun crime, and it was a real rough place to live. And James had come over from Southeast London in Peckham. He relocated to Hackney, and he'd done wonderful things, and he'd been a cross-generational mentor. So people that had been mentored by James in the 90s would would know James now as they're grown up and they're still offering the same love and respect that they did when they were kids, and he was watching them bring on a second and third generation of young people in Hackney. He was a mentor, he was a priest, he was an imam, he was a father figure, he was a role model. He was a brilliant community person, James. James Cook MBE would be sorely missed by everyone in London boxing, and he was a really good man. R.I.P. James, and condolences to his family and everybody, all of his friends, which were many.
Well said, sir. Well said. And also, the last we did not get the chance last week to get into the speaking about the loss of Mike McCallum. Yes, the body snatcher passed away last week, and he'll be remembered for a championship career that spanned in 2 decades with big wins over people like the Steve Collins, Harold Graham of the Graham on there. He had contentious fights with James Toney. He stopped Michael Watson in 1990 as well. That was a good run there. Collins, Watson, and Graham all back to back there. But he will be remembered, as more than just a vicious body puncher, as just an iron-chinned guy who went to war with just about anybody who was anybody during that era. But Des, this is definitely more up your alley, and I will hand this over to you, because this is a big loss of the boxing world, and a guy who might have just been overshadowed a bit in the era of the Four Kings.
Yeah, you could have put him in that. There's a lot of fighters, but the two that stand out that weren't in that four was probably who was the Puerto Rican? His name's escaped me. Just so I'm thinking about Mike McCallum.
Oh, I know
who was
exactly
the Puerto Rican kid? Yeah, the 17-year-old world champion. Yeah,
yeah.
And Mike McCallum was the other one. So Wilfred Benitez and Mike McCallum were the two that could have gone into that four to make it the 6 Kings. Mike McCallum was a brilliant fighter. Again, had a foot in 2 generations of brilliant fighters. He was a great amateur. He went to the 76 Olympics. He won gold at the Edmonton Commonwealth Games, and he was silver at the Pan American Games in 79. He had a brilliant amateur run, turned over, was a free-weight world champion. He was a slick, hard-hitting, technically brilliant fighter. He was a true master of boxing, was Mike McCallum. And he was the one that stopped all of our middleweights fighting the American middleweights. If you remember, we had Eubank, Watson, and Ben all doing wonderful numbers over here. And over in America, you had James Toney, Michael Nunn, Julian Jackson, Bernard Hopkins, Roy Jones. They was almost like their own 5 kings of a new era. And none of our guys went over there to fight your guys, because Michael Watson stood Nigel Benn on his head at Finsbury Park, and they brought Mike McCallum over, and he stood Michael Watson on his head at the Royal Albert Hall. And that's when everybody said, well, there's levels here. If Michael Watson's the best we've got, and Mike McCallum isn't the best you've got, because there was Michael Nunn and there was James Toney and there was Roy Jones, I think we're going to have to, we put a stop to this now. He was the guy that beat our guys and reminded us where we was and where our guys were. No disrespect to us at all, but that's how good he was. He was a brilliant fighter, Mike McCallum, and a Hall of Famer himself, and a guy that beat Hall of Famers. So he was a legend of the sport, Mike McCallum, and from everyone at the Asylum, everyone in the chat, and all boxing fans all around the world, to Jamaica's first world boxing champion, rest in peace.
Yeah, nice words there, Des. Justin, your thoughts on the passing of Mike McCallum and the incredible career that he left behind?
I think Des summed it up. Just all you got to do is just go look at his record and look at everybody he fought. Didn't duck anybody. I think he ended up fighting, like 6 or 7 Hall of Famers. The man just did it all. He was the first champion from his country. I think that's something people don't discuss, how much national pride that is from Jamaica.
Yeah, there's only been a handful of champions from Jamaica. Let's see here. You got McCallum, O'Neal, Simon Brown, O'Neal Bell, I think, was Jamaican. Maybe?
Yep, Nicholas Walters.
Nicholas Walters, Axeman.
Yep.
One more.
Oh, he says one more.
One more.
One more Jamaican. Jamaican, me think hard here.
Beat Muhammad Ali, lost to Mike Tyson.
Oh yeah.
Burbick.
Trevor
Burbick. Yeah, Trevor. No, Trevor Burbick was from Bermuda.
Was he? Wasn't Jamaican?
I think he was from Bermuda.
Jamaica.
Hold on.
Can I Google that quickly?
Yeah,
I think he was
figure
from,
that out. Yeah,
I think he was from an island in Jamaica. Oh, he's Jamaican. You're right. Okay, I thought he was. I was thinking. Yeah,
really?
I was stuck on Bermuda. Yeah, so he was.
There you go.
He's another guy. Yeah. So that Jamaica's produced some. You think about it, the guys they have produced were all good. I mean, the high level guys. But yeah, McCallum is just one of those.
An honourable mention to Oval McKenzie that should have won a world title, but he got robbed.
What I think you can say about McCallum is he's another guy we talked about. He's honest, pro. He warrior. He fought. Never. You didn't have any of the weight stuff. You didn't have any of the ducking people, and that's all you can ask for. As a guy that just shows up, does his job, entertains, and can absolutely annihilate somebody. And that's all.
And
that's
while you've got me on Jamaican world champions, on the back of my mind, I think Lloyd Honeyghan was born in Jamaica as well. I know he come from South London, but I think he was born in Jamaica, the ragamuffin man. Someone can find that out for me if they fancy it. But I think Lloyd's another one that was born in Jamaica and was the undisputed welterweight champion of the world, beating Don Curry in Atlantic City. Jamaica's produced some brilliant sports people. Brilliant sports people.
So that is, yeah, Mike McCallum was a good fighter. But he, once again, like you said, he fought during an era where there was so many incredible fighters that had bigger personalities, and he kind of got overlooked. When you got the Tonys and you've got all these other guys, you kind of, it's hard to stay with their just.
Honeyghan was born in Jamaica, interestingly enough. Although nationality considered British, he was born in St. Elizabeth, Jamaica.
Yeah, I thought so.
Bam. There's some fucking old school deep knowledge for you people. Again, throw another one in there. But still, that's incredible. So we got to 6 champions. I think that's impressive. I don't think many people would be able to get that on Jeopardy. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, we wish the best to the family of Mike McCallum and all the lives that he touched, in a positive way. I'm sure there's a lot of people he touched in a very terrible way inside the ring that would would prefer to forget about it. But yeah, one of the great body punchers of all time. Again, never ducked anybody. Great fights with James Toney. I think 1 or 2 of those. I think he had, because he had 3 fights with Toney, and I think 1 was a draw, and there was 2 losses. And
yep.
And I think people thought, and a lot of people thought he won the draw and the first loss, if I'm correct. I could be wrong. But anyhow, yeah, so it's been a crazy week in boxing, but yeah, a little bit more settled down this week. We got a lot coming up here. But I thank everybody for hopping in there, and I thank Ryan Deal for throwing in 5 of them New Zealand Bucks, and also calling Kelvin Davis the bin. So we do thank you very much for that one, Ryan. But for everybody who stopped in today, thank you again. And for everybody who's going to be listening ahead, we appreciate you all for checking us out. But yeah, we will be back here next week. Justin, Dez have joined us. Also, Eamon Khan, thanks for coming in when you could. And for you folks at home, we will see you all next week.
We'll never forget.
Yeah, I think that's good happening.
Go to move!
We want to be honest, yeah?
Crying like a little bitch. I've never met a fucking swank that can fight me.
I fell asleep. You're a fucking bum, you're a fucking asshole.
Rumpo fucking Steltskin.
But allegedly, Oscar Rivas has failed a test.
7 urine. 7 urine. I will fucking smash fucking you.
I hope you fucking die.
Be safe.
I love boxing sounds, as simple as that.